Good evening, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to the April the 18th, 2019 Forsyth County Board of Commissioners public hearings and regular meeting. At this time, I'd like to call the meeting to order at 5:04 p.m. Tonight we're honored to have Dr. Steve Dodson, the senior pastor from Coming First United Methodist Church, to lead us in the invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance. Stand as you're able, please.
Join me as we pray. Gracious God, we're gathered here tonight to make decisions and to transact the business of our county, yet we recognize that we're not an island unto ourselves. Our lives, our businesses intersect with countless others. Neighboring cities and counties depend on us and are impacted by us. So tonight, make us mindful that we belong to a wider community in our region, our state, our nation, and our world. Tonight, our hearts extend to the citizens of Paris and France, as well as to the citizens of Colorado and the area of Columbine High School. To all those who have experienced tremendous loss, grant your peace and comfort, and keep our hearts sensitive to the needs of others. Make us humble enough to recognize and to count our blessings. We thank you for the many resources within our county. Pray that you would enable us to be good stewards and managers of those resources in ways that will benefit future generations. Motivate all of us to pursue the highest quality of life possible. We express gratitude for those who have been chosen to exercise leadership on behalf of all of us, both commissioners and staff. Grant each of them wisdom and discernment in the execution of their duties, as well as a genuine desire to serve. God, we thank you for all that we've been able to accomplish and achieve together. And for all that is yet to come, we seek your wise guidance and protection. These and all prayers we offer in your holy name. Amen. Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Commissioners, do we have any changes to the agenda? I'll start on the end there with Commissioner Levent. Do you have any changes tonight?
I don't believe I do, Madam.
Okay. Commissioner Cooper, do you have any changes?
Yes, to new business, I would like to add a discussion on the residue conservation.
Okay. We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Please vote. And that does pass with a vote of 5-0.
Madam Chair, what new business item will it be put under?
We'll just add it to the end. It'll be new business number 3. Everybody has that recorded. Do you have any other changes, Commissioner Cooper?
I do not, thank you.
Commissioner Mills, do you have any changes this evening?
I do.
Okay.
Under old business number 4, I'd like to postpone that, make a motion to postpone that to 5/2.
That's old business number 4
Second.
to May the 2nd. We have a motion and a second. Please vote. That motion does pass with a vote of 5-0. Do you have any others?
New business number 1, I'd like to make a motion to postpone that to May the 2nd.
Would that be 1A?
Let me look. I think so, but hold on. Yes, 1A.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to move 1A to May 2nd. Please vote. And that motion does pass with a vote of 5-0 as well. Are there any others from you?
No, thank you.
Dennis or Commissioner Brown?
Madam Chair, I have one under old business. Nancy Bentley, ZA 3807. Like to postpone that till May 16th.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Please vote. That motion does carry 5-0. All right. Do you have any others, Commissioner Brown?
No, ma'am, that's all.
Eric Johnson, do you have any changes?
Dave Groen has one.
Okay,
Madam Chairman, if I may, I've been advised we could add this under new business, so I believe it would be number 4, but we're ready. We've brought back the agreement with HealthStat, the vendor that the board chose a couple meetings ago to take care of our health clinic. I'm sorry, our health center, misspoke, health center. And we're ready for this to be adopted by the board tonight when we get to that point, if everything's in order.
So move number 4, new business.
we have a motion, a second to add that item as number 4 under new business. Please vote. Does pass with a vote of 5-0. And any others? Or Mr. Johnson? Have any items, Mr. Merritt?
No, thank you.
Okay. Counselor?
Madam Chair, I just have one possible reordering of the agenda.
Okay.
At the consent agenda, there was a motion that was ratified that had, I think, been the previous product of perhaps a work session discussion on short-term rentals. The motion had been to move that to the last agenda item tonight. So that's, I think, Commissioner Levent, that had been something that you had actually made the motion on. The board had ratified to do it. This is a short agenda. I think the time constraint had been the concern driving that. But if the board wants to move short-term rental public hearing to the very last item, that's what you all agreed to do at the April 4th consent agenda.
There's no motion or necessary because we've already voted that.
Well, it
Well-
wasn't identified that way on the agenda, so just to reorder the agenda correctly, I think that would need a motion and second to go ahead and move it.
And it
So
does,
moved.
okay, I was going to say, it does appear at the end of the public hearings. It just does not appear at the end of
That's
the
correct.
agenda. We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Please vote. And that we will move that to the end after new business.
And Madam Chair, I do have one more.
Yes, sir.
Madam Chair, this is not to ask this to be amended this evening, but I think the Economic Development Memorandum of Understanding is ready for prime time, but I know the board may want to take a look at it. Would there be a willingness by 2 of you to add that to the next work session agenda?
So moved.
I just need a motion and second. If there's a motion and second, that's all we need.
Thank you.
Thank you. The
Are there
Chair
any
and
other
Commissioner Brown.
changes?
That's all I have, Madam Chair.
Okay. Mr. Johnson, there was some discussion of perhaps moving an item off of consent and pushing that out to our next work session. Is there still a desire to do so? That was, I got to find it on here. Unless it-
What was it in reference to?
It was to present some more of the data on the salary study, but I'm actually not seeing it on this consent. It may be on our
I think the
next.
agenda was prepared in advance. Yes, I
Okay.
would suggest that we follow up on yesterday's meeting by scheduling either a special called meeting in the future or add it to a future agenda. There was information requested that I believe will be available early next week, but once we have that, I think then I would suggest maybe Tuesday we can schedule the follow-up discussion
Okay,
at a
so it
future
actually
meeting.
didn't even make this consent.
Before we do that, is it the purpose of it to stall it, to make sure new information comes in that this board still wants to do the pay raise? Because I'm fine with where we are.
Okay.
I heard plenty, and I dig into things way before it gets presented to us. I'm very comfortable with where we are. But, I mean, I'm fine with where we are. Unless there's 3 commissioners are not fine with where we are on this, I just assume leave it on consent agenda.
It's not even on the consent agenda.
No, I anticipated that it would be on consent agenda. I knew there was some discussion that there was some information at the meeting that wasn't presented at that time that was perhaps coming forward that should be considered. And so I was just offering that out there. But as it's not even on our consent agenda,
Would that be adequate, that the commissioners that need additional information, they get that from the county manager between now and the next consent agenda when it does, to see if they have a comfort level before it gets to consent agenda?
Well, I mean, it's not even on here.
No, it'll be on the
it's
next
not.
one. It'll be on the next one, but instead of pulling it off,
we'll-
could those commissioners get that information and educate themselves on what they voted on to, if they don't have a comfort level, I get it, but if they do,
well,
then we just leave it
we can
alone.
decide between now and the
about
next
it
2 weeks
then.
because it won't come up on
Let
consent for 2 more weeks.
me offer up just a couple of thoughts. The item that was approved yesterday was approved at a special meeting. It will not return to a consent agenda
Okay.
absent board members asking it to come back specially. Because it wasn't, at a special meeting, there's no requirement for that time sensitivity language. That's only at work sessions.
Okay.
So yesterday, that's done, unless it comes back by the board.
So is it fair to say that this doesn't go into effect until June 24th, and that should some commissioners don't have a comfort level, by the time they get the additional information they need, there's plenty of time for us to relook at it again, put it back on an agenda if need be.
Yes.
Otherwise, just leave it
The
as it
answer
is.
is yes.
Is that fair?
We have rules
Yeah.
for recension of
Yes.
previously approved items, but that would take
I don't know that
board
that's
action.
even the intent is recension, but I think there was some additional data that wanted to be looked at and some, maybe putting together some
Sure.
processes for assessment. So-
Sure,
good.
excellent,
Yes.
excellent, thank you.
All right, with that in mind, is there a motion to adopt the agenda as amended?
So moved.
Second.
The motion is second, please vote. And the agenda is adopted. Announcement and reports. Vice Chairman Mills, you have an item for us this evening, a presentation.
Yes, would the members that are here for the proclamation for, what are we calling this? The Protect Children, the Positive and Productive Future, CASA, National Court Appointed Special Advocate Association, all of you good people that do a lot to help children, come on down.
Go. Go.
While they're on their way, I want to brag on all the people that do so much in our community to help kids. I am so blessed to be able to see their work in action so much, and they're the unsung heroes of our community so much. People that work with foster care that just don't get enough praise. I just appreciate so much the work that they do. The mental health counselors that work with our kids in the school, the people that work with CASA, the stewards of Light program that's going on, SAF, foster care providers. We have, I'm amazed, we'll have meetings about zonings and variances and have 250 people in the room with a certain color of shirt on that are just angry to the hilt, and yet we'll have an issue that's concerning the future of our kids and just can't get people to come. And these people are really making a difference in the lives of our kids that are suffering greatly, and kids that just don't have anybody to advocate for them. And I am so appreciative that you guys and so many like you that are going the extra mile, that are making a difference, and we are so blessed to have you in our county. And I'm thankful for you. I truly am. And I appreciate what you do. And I met a lady a couple of years ago in the parking lot. I'd been at a meeting, I'm sure somebody complaining, at First Redeemer Church, and I went out to the car, and I happened to meet a lady in the parking lot that we just stopped to talk. I don't know why. It was odd because I'm usually in a hurry. And she was a CASA person. And she told me that she was on her way to take the child she was representing to see her sister that was 3 hours away. And that meant she was driving 3 hours so the sister could see the sister, and then 3 hours back home. And I thought, what an angel. That child has been separated from her sister, and you're taking that much time so they could see each other. And what a blessing you are to that child's life. And we're so blessed to have people like that in our community. And I was so thankful for her. So this is a proclamation by the Board of Commissioners of Forsyth County, Georgia. Whereas the citizens of Forsyth County are entrusted with the privilege and responsibility to protect children and provide them with a positive and productive future. And whereas Forsyth County CASA, Inc., in association with the National Court Appointed Special Advocate Association and Georgia Court Appointed Special Advocates, Inc., speaks for the best interest of abused and neglected children who are involved in the juvenile courts. And whereas child abuse occurs as a result of the choices adults make, not just the choices abusers make, but choices parents, schools, and community leaders make. And knowing that educating parents and all others who serve children and how to make better choices will increase protective factors for children. And whereas an epidemic of child abuse exists in our culture, with 1 in 10 children being sexually abused before the age of 18, with the vast majority of such children being harmed by someone they know and trust, wounding children physically, emotionally, psychologically, and spiritually, with lifelong negative health outcomes. And whereas there exists in our country a coalition of community partners under the leadership of the District Attorney's Office and Forsyth County Community Connection, together with other key agencies, the purpose of which is to train 5% of the adult population in stewards of children, a curriculum that teaches adults how to prevent, recognize, and react responsibly to child sexual abuse. And whereas the Board of Commissioners has designated funds to train all county employees in steward of children as stewards of children as an example for the community, and to lead the way for our community to be trained to better protect our children. Now therefore, the Forsyth County Board of Commissioners does hereby proclaim the month of April 2019 as Child Abuse Prevention and Awareness Month in Forsyth County, and encourages all the adults in our community to participate in the training to help us make Forsyth County the safest place in Georgia to raise children. And I'd like, if you will, just speak about that, Sarah, or either one of you, if you will. It's not just people that work with children. We're trying to get everybody trained. If you'll just tell what that is. If you'll go to the microphone, so if you'll speak at the microphone.
Right up there.
Well, the idea is that we want to create protective factors for all children wherever they go. So from the time they wake up in the morning to when they come back home and go to bed in the evening, we want all of those adults to have gone through this training that teaches them how to prevent child sexual abuse from ever happening, but also how to recognize the signs that a child has been abused. 1 in 10 kids will be abused before the age of 18, and we need to be able to recognize what those signs are and to know how to intervene in a child's life, and to have the courage to be able to intervene in a child's life, and then how to react responsibly. How that first person responds when a child discloses abuse sets the course for the rest of that life. And to know how to respond in a way that encourages that child and gives that child hope is critically important. So our desire is for every adult that works with children, parents, preschool, school, church, any organization, to have that basic skill and that basic understanding so that we can put an end to child sexual abuse and help our kids grow up healthy and whole. And thank you, commissioners, for your part in enabling us to do that here in Forsyth County. We're very appreciative of that.
Y'all will for the picture. Yeah, here's the.
Can you guys scoot in just a little bit?
Show the love.
Thank you all. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have another presentation for service awards from Pat Carson.
Yes, commissioners and citizens, tonight we recognize 2 employees who have reached milestone service anniversaries with Forsyth County government. The first, on February 9th, Tom Wilson with the Forsyth County Sheriff's Office reached 25 years of service. In acknowledgement of his extensive years of service with Forsyth County, Sheriff Freeman is here to present the Milestone Service Award. I ask that Mr. Wilson and the Board of Commissioners come to the podium to participate in the presentation. Oops. There you go. Thank you.
go first.
You could- The next, second recipient is Miss Marianne Darnell with the Forsyth County Water and Sewer Department, who on February 13th reached 30 years of service with Forsyth County government. Director Tim Perkins is here to present the Milestone Service Award. Marianne?
We also have a retirement award this evening. Mr. Johnson, please come forward. Oh, a number of them.
You're going to get a lot of exercise.
Yeah.
We have 3.
We'll just wait in the wings.
And as that last award recognized, we obviously didn't have child labor laws to have an individual
Right.
who served 30 years and still looks that young. Well, I'm pleased as county manager to have the opportunity to express our appreciation to employees who are retiring and the outstanding service that they provide to our residents. Tonight, we're pleased to recognize 2 county employees who will be retiring soon and another who retired last week. So we're going to start with having Tom Wilson come back down again. Tom gets more exercise, but he's retired. Tom served as the Property and Forensics Management Administrator with the Forsyth County Sheriff's Office for, as you've just heard, 25 years, more than 25 years. And his last day with the county was on April 12th. So on behalf of the Board of Commissioners, I want to say thank you for the excellent service you've provided to Forsyth County government and our residents, and we wish you the best in your retirement. Congratulations.
Commissioners, if I can just add to that, Tom did not just retire as our forensic manager. Tom rose to the rank of major and honorably retired as a major at the Forsyth County Sheriff's Office. Rose from the rank of deputy sheriff, serving 2 different times with us, was our jail commander, one of the highest ranks at the Sheriff's Office. He has served us well.
Commissioners, you may want to just stay here. Beverly Dark, will you please come forward? How are you tonight? Hold that. Beverly serves as a project manager too with the county's IS&T department. She's been with the county for 11 and a half years, and her last day with the county will be April 26th. Beverly, on behalf of the Board of Commissioners, I want to say thank you for the excellent service that you've provided, and we wish you the best in your retirement. Congratulations.
I'm the director of IT, so I just want to say a few words for Bev here. When she started here, she came in as a project manager. I think within 2 weeks, she was asked to start leading the applications team. Over the course of her career, she's been involved in about 287 IT projects. 5 or 6 were pretty significant for the county, helped implement the financial systems, HR payroll, public safety application for the sheriff, fire, and 911. Most recently helped start up an official project management office. And the biggest project this year was to help us get the new planning system off the ground, Intergov. Thank you much, Bev, for your contributions. And we have a little thank you from the IT department here. We wish you great adventures.
Roma Coulter, will you please come forward? Roma serves as the administrative coordinator with the Forsyth County Sheriff's Office. She's been with the county for almost 19 years, and her last day with the county will be on May 2nd. On behalf of the Board of Commissioners, I want to say thank you for your excellent service that you provided to the county government and obviously the Sheriff's Office, and we wish you the best in your retirement. Congratulations.
Roma is one of my favorite people at the entire Sheriff's Office. She is one of the most loved and feared people at the Sheriff's Office. See, Roma is our payroll manager. And if Roma doesn't like you, you don't get paid. No, she has done heavy lifting and yeoman's work for us for almost 19 years. We love her. We hate missing her. Maybe we can talk her back into coming back part-time a little bit after she enjoys some retirement. Roma, thank you.
I'll wait for the room to clear. Yeah, I know. We thought they were here for us. Okay, as everyone is starting to file out, I'm going to have, Karen is going to read the rules of the meeting and is going to announce the public comment speakers.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the board. I'd like to take a few moments to review the meeting procedures.
I can't hear.
Please silence your cell phones and electronic devices. Those who wish to speak during public comments should complete a public comment form that is available just outside this room. If you wish to speak during public hearings, there is a form for that as well. Information regarding specific requirements to address the board is listed at the podium. Please state that information prior to speaking. All comments should be directed to the entire board and not to a particular commissioner. There are 2 public comment opportunities during the meeting for speakers to make a verbal presentation to the board, one now and one prior to old business. The number of speakers is limited to 10 now and 10 at the second portion. Speakers are selected on a first-come basis and will be heard in the order in which they signed up, with the exception that Forsyth County residents will be heard first, with non-county residents to follow until the time has expired. Each speaker is limited to 3 minutes. Madam Chair, at this time, we have had no one sign up for this first public comment section. If anyone wishes to address the board during this time, please come forward.
Thank you, Karen.
I see none.
Okay, in that case, we will keep on moving along. Do I have a motion to adopt the minutes of the regular meeting and the executive session of April 4th, 2019?
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second, please vote. That motion carries 5-0. Is there a motion to adopt the minutes of the work session and executive session of April 9th?
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second, please vote. That also carries 5-0. Is there a motion to adopt the minutes of the special called meeting of April 15th, 2019?
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second, please vote. Carries 5-0. Is there a motion to adopt the minutes of the special called meeting of April the 17th,
So moved.
2019? Is there a second?
Second.
A motion and a second, please vote. And that motion carries 5-0. Is there a motion to adopt the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second, please vote. That carries 5-0 as well. As we move into public hearings, once again, Karen is going to read an announcement regarding the requirements for all speakers to complete the public hearing form and the rules of engagement.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. For the public hearing portion of the meeting, each side, those in opposition and those in support, are allotted 10 minutes to speak. Those who wish to speak should complete a public hearing form that is available just outside this room. Please fill out both sides and submit your form to the clerk when approaching the podium to speak. If there is more than one speaker for each side, the available time will be divided among the speakers. We will provide a verbal reminder when the speaker has 30 seconds remaining.
Thank you. Public hearing number 1, Amy Conrath.
AL 190811. This is located in Commission District Number 1. This is a request for approval of an alcohol license for Friends Coming Grill LLC. Name licensee is Rade Stenjevich for an application to sell malt beverages, wine, and distilled spirits for consumption on the premises at their place of business located at 506 Lakeland Plaza.
Thank you. Is there a motion to open the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Please vote. Public hearing is open with a vote of 5-0. If there is anyone who's here in favor of this application, please come forward at this time. You could state your name and are you the applicant?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
Rade Stanjevich.
Okay. And if you want to hold there for just 1 second, I'll see if there's anybody else that wants to speak in favor. Is there anyone else who's here to speak in favor of the application? There is not. Is there anyone who's here to speak in opposition to it? Are there any comments you wanted to make other than you're submitting your application at this time?
No, I'd appreciate it being approved.
Is there a motion to close the public hearing?
Second.
A motion and a second, please vote. Motion, that motion passes and the public hearing is now closed. Commissioner Cooper, this one's in District 1, so I'm going to pass it to you.
Thank you.
From the business license manager.
She may have some questions, so you'll want to hang up here.
From the business license manager and planning and development, they did move that we approve this application. Are you open for business at this time, or will you be opening in the future?
Probably in about 3 months.
About 3 months, okay. And you're familiar with our alcohol sales
Yes.
ordinance? Great,
I am.
fantastic. And good luck on your new business.
I'm sorry?
Good luck on your new business as
Thank you
well,
very much.
okay? I move that we approve the request for an alcohol license to sell malt beverages, beer, wine, and distilled spirits for consumption on the premises of Friends Coming Grill LLC located 506 Lakeland Plaza, Cumming, Georgia 3004, and from the licensee of Rade Stanjevich. Stanjevich, man, I almost had it, okay.
Second.
License number AL 190811.
Second.
Thank you.
Motion and a second. Please vote. That motion carries 5-0. Which space are you moving into?
The old Austin's
Oh, okay.
Seafood
Oh,
and
awesome.
Steakhouse behind Texas Roadhouse.
Excellent.
Got it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Public hearing number 2, Amy Conrath.
AL 190812, located in Commission District Number 2. This is a request for approval of an alcohol license for Sofo Restaurants LLC, doing business as Sofo Modern Cuisine and Cocktails. Name licensee is Michelle Asquerez for an application to sell malt beverages, wine, and distilled spirits for consumption on the premises at their place of business, located at 3590 Old Atlanta Road, Suites 208 and 209.
Thank you. Is there a motion to open the public hearing?
Moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Please vote. Public hearing is now open. Please come forward if you are here to speak in favor of the application. You can state your name.
Michelle Karras.
And are you both here to speak?
He's my
Okay.
husband.
And are you the applicants?
Yeah, I am.
Okay. Is this going where local is, or which, okay. Is it gonna, so it's gonna change names?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It needs to.
Okay, is there, if you'll stand by for 1 second, Commissioner Brown may have some questions. Is there anyone else who's here to speak in favor? Is there anyone here to speak in opposition? This is the part where we look over, see if anybody's coming down. Is there a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second, please vote. That motion passes 5-0. Public hearing is now closed. Commissioner Brown.
So a new business down there. You guys familiar with all the rules and regulations, all set, all the employees? Well, look forward to having you. Hopefully you can do a good job there.
We're ready to.
We'll have to drop in and see you.
Please do.
When do you anticipate taking over? When do you anticipate opening?
Well,
You're operating it now
yeah,
as LKT?
But we're gonna shut down and remodel in June.
Maybe do some promotions or something. Yeah.
Yes.
Get the word out. So I'd like to make a motion that we approve the request for alcohol license to sell malt beverages, beer, wine, and distilled spirits for consumption on the premises for Sofo Restaurants LLC. South Forsyth. Yeah. Sofo. We're getting some good names down there with the frog. And Modern Cuisine and Cocktails, located 3590 Old Atlanta Road, Suite 208, 209, Suwanee. 30024, name licensee is Michelle S. Karras, AL 190812.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Please vote. And that motion passes with a vote of 5-0.
Congratulations.
Thank you and best of luck.
Thanks.
Number 3, John Kennard.
Yes, Madam Chairman, board members. Item number 3 is a public hearing regarding the proposed amendment to the Forsyth County Flood Damage Prevention Ordinance, otherwise known as Forsyth County Ordinance number 44, or Article 2, or Chapter 46 of Forsyth County Code of Ordinances. I'm going to introduce Renee Hogue, our county engineer. She serves as floodplain administrator for Forsyth County, and she can give you a brief summary of the proposed changes. This is the second public hearing, so after the public hearing, the board's welcome to take action.
Thank you, John. Is there a motion to open the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Please vote. And that motion passes with a vote of 5-0. Public hearing is now open. Is there anyone here in favor to speak in favor of this change? Is there anyone who is here to speak in opposition? Is there a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second. Please vote. And that motion passes with a vote of 5-0. Renee, was there? We had this a while back. Before this has come before us already.
Yes, ma'am, a
once.
couple of weeks ago.
Okay. Do any of the commissioners have any additional questions? This is the one where we're trying to bring it up to meet the current federal standard. Is that correct?
The revisions are at the request of FEMA and put us in compliance with the state model ordinance.
Thank you. Do any of the commissioners have any questions? Would anyone like to offer a motion?
Make a motion, we approve the proposed amendment to the Forsyth County Flood Damage Prevention Ordinance, otherwise known as the Forsyth County Ordinance 44, Article 2, Chapter 46 of the Forsyth County Code of Ordinances.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Please vote. Commissioner Levette?
Are there red line versions that we're going off of?
There's a summary. There is a summary of the changes that should be in your book that was
I know,
provided.
I just know, does the motion need to reflect that, Ken?
It does not need to reflect that.
It does not, okay, very good.
That motion carries with a vote of 5-0. We have moved item, public hearing number 4 to the end of the agenda, which takes us to another public comments section, and Karen will read the rules one more time.
Madam Chair, we have no forms that have been submitted for the second portion of the public comments. If someone wishes to address the board, please come forward at this time. I see none.
Thank you. Moving on to old business number 1, Tom Brown.
Old business number 1, zone AZ 180035. This is in Commission District number 1. It's a decision for Stingers Cross Ties and Landscape Material, Inc. regarding the amendment of condition number 15 placed on zoning application 3408. The first public hearing was held on February 7th, 2019. The second public hearing was held on April 4th, 2019. Commissioners, this is the first of 2 applications for this property. Old business item number 2 on your agenda. The next item is for the same property.
Thank you. District number 1, Commissioner Cooper, this is your item. I know this has been on the agenda a few times. Looks like we're ready to roll tonight.
Yes, we are. I would like to have Ethan Underwood come up and address this, if you would, please. That's a couple of questions.
Good evening, Commissioners.
So to amend number 15, you were asking to have removed the section of no vehicles, let's see, was it no vehicles on the premises, other outside storage shall not be permitted. That is what you're asking to have removed from number 15,
That's
correct? And that is for the storage of the RVs, for which the cup.
There is an existing sentence that says, other outside storage shall not be permitted. So we're asking to leave the condition as is, except to strike that to allow outside storage. That is a conditional use. So if this gets approved, then the board still has to approve a conditional use permit, which is the next item on the agenda.
Okay.
But removing that sentence would not open Pandora's box to just allow any outdoor storage.
Right, understood. All right, and on this, you asked to delete number 2 in the conditions. So would you also talk about that as well?
Yes, along the eastern boundary of the property, it adjoins a portion of a CBD zone property. And when this was zoned some time back, there was a substantial buffer that was required on there. It was a 60-foot buffer with a 100-foot building setback. In working with neighbors and in going through the public participation process, what we had asked to do was to, a 100-foot buffer was in condition number 2 and referenced a 100-foot setback in 14. What we're asking is simply take that down to what the code requires, which is a 20-foot buffer inside of a 30-foot building setback. We did correspond. We sent out new public participation letters to the neighbors. We corresponded with the Abernathy family, who was just to the east of us. And the response we got back is they asked if our client might be interested in buying their property. They said they weren't opposed to the buffer reduction, but they were very interested in buying the property. And we have corresponded that's a possibility. However, at this point, the only application before the board is the buffer reduction. So they did receive letters. We did not get a letter that says, yes, we're okay with the buffer reduction, but we have discussed that with them and not received any other objection.
And my question on this, the reason you're requesting this is because GDOT is taking out, what, 80 feet
Yes,
on
Commissioner.
the north and the south, the north and the west side?
Along the western side, they're realigning Herdsville Road and County Line Road to intersect with Howard Road. So we're going to be losing a good bit of space on the western side, so we're trying to pick up some usable space.
Move it back
on the east
some.
side. That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I move that we grant the amendment of zoning condition on ZA 3808 Stinger Cross Ties and Landscape Materials by Stinger Cross Ties and Landscape Materials, Inc., AZ 180035, that we accept the amendment of number 15 as stated and delete number 2 and number 4 conditions.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Please vote. And that motion carries with a vote of 5-0. Old business number 2. Mr. Brown?
CP 180036 Stingers Cross Ties and Landscape Material, Inc., located in Commission District Number 1. This is the request for an issuance of a conditional use permit to operate an open storage yard on 14.917 acres associated with existing buildings totaling 7,492 square feet on property currently zoned M1, CBD, and HB. The property is located on Canton Highway. The Planning Commission recommends approval of the issuance of this conditional use permit. We have a red line version of the conditions that will be displayed. The public hearing was held on February 26th. The proposed use was found to be in conformity with the comprehensive plan. Staff is supportive.
Thank you. Once again, Commissioner Cooper, this is traveling with the previous item.
It is indeed, yes. And Ethan Underwood, if you step up again, please. And this is for the cup request, which is our actual original reason for all of this.
Yes. Again, because the site plan, we know it will change. GDOT is running a road through this property, so we asked for these amendments. It still, it really simplifies the original. What it says is you have to comply with the buffer standards. They will be. We'll have to work with Greg Wallace to do that. Condition number 4, condition number 5, the same. It says the front landscape strip will be planted per the Buford Highway Overlay District. That gives us a very broad requirement, but objective requirement. And again, the condition number 2, we know it's going to conflict with the new GDOT right-of-way. So that's why we simply asked to be that to be stricken. But as I understand, the UDC already has a provision in it that says we have to substantially comply with the site plan. It's in Chapter 8. So we're hoping this will simplify it, but also allow us to understand that the site plan is going to be modified by GDOT's expansion.
Is there anybody else here to speak besides Mr. Underwood tonight?
This isn't a public hearing.
I understand, but if you let him answer questions, and there's somebody on the other side that wanted to rebut anything, I mean, sometimes.
Well, I was at the public participation meeting on this when this first came up, and there was one
But
person.
there's nobody else here in the audience on this item, I'm assuming.
That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
Unless the Commissioner Cooper was looking for that.
Yeah, I know. I just.
I'm just saying that I was at the public participation meeting when this first came up, and we had one person that did attend, and she was in favor of it. She was familiar with the site, familiar with the location, the topography. The way this is laid out is it will be downhill, so once you see the buffer, you're not going to be able to even see the open storage. Also, I've spoken with Cleopatra James at GDOT to verify that which is going to be happening as far as taking out the front of this particular parcel, and it is indeed going to be happening just as Councilor Underwood stated.
Thank you.
So I would like to make a motion that for CP, that we accept a change of ZC 190404 to CP 180036 Stinger Cross Ties and Landscape Materials shall reserve right-of-way of State Route 20, which is Canton Highway, per GDOT Road Improvement Project PI-0002862, or when needed for road improvement projects as determined by GDOT and/or Forsyth County Department of Engineering. And 2, open storage shall only be allowed in the area designated on the site plan approved with CP 180036.
Second.
Second you've got a second for a question. Have we displayed the site plan? Should we display it?
I would appreciate that.
Need to make any comment that we're voting on the red line version?
As long as it.
Two versions were showed.
The motion contains the as displayed language I'll have the court, say that again?
She did reference the site plan without the words as displayed,
But was the site plan put up on the screen is what I'm asking?
Now it is.
That is the site plan currently. We acknowledge that? Yes. We have a motion and a second.
If I may, Commissioners, I just want to clarify. Unless I heard wrong, I thought the motion did not include conditions 4 and 5. We're not asking to strike them. We're just asking to modify them. So we want to make sure that the language that we agreed to in 4 and 5 is included in the motion.
Yes, that was, yes. Thank you. I did not include that, but yes. As stated, I include motion, to go back, let me start over on this.
Would you like to remove your second?
Yes.
Okay. Would you like to?
Okay.
The board, please. Like to recall your motion?
Recall my motion.
Okay.
I move that we accept CP 180036 Stinger Cross Ties and Landscape shall reserve the right-of-way on State Route 20 Canton Highway per GDOT Road Improvement Project PI-0002862 or when needed for road improvement projects as determined by GDOT and/or Forsyth County Department of Engineering. It's number one. Number two, open storage shall only be allowed in the area designated on the site plan approved with CP 180036. And that on number four, the buffers must be planted or supplemented to comply with the Forsyth County buffered standards as approved by Forsyth County arborist. Number five, the front landscape strip shall be planted per the requirements of the Beaufort Highway Overlay District.
And you'd like to include the site plan as displayed?
And include the site plan as displayed.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Please vote. And that motion passes with a vote of 5-0. Thank you. Old business items number 3 and 4 were both postponed to the 16th and the 2nd of May, respectively, for those of you who arrived late. New business item number 1A was also postponed to May the 2nd, which brings us to new business 1B. Tom Brown.
Zoning application 3929, Campbell Family Medicine PC, located in Commission District Number 5. This is a request to rezone 0.507 acres from R2R to OR for a medical office in an existing 3,300 square foot building. The applicant's also requesting variances. The first is to reduce the setback abutting Hawk Creek Road right-of-way from 40 feet to 24. The second is to reduce the zoning setback along the southern property boundary from 30 feet to 3. The third, reduce the zoning buffer along the southern property boundary adjacent the existing structure from 15 feet to 3. The fourth, increase the maximum gross square footage per business establishment from 2,500 square feet to 3,300. And the final variance is eliminate the 5,000 foot sewer distance requirement to facilitate the use of an on-site septic disposal system. The property is located at 910 Hawk Creek Road. The Planning Commission recommends approval of this rezoning from R2R to OR with variances and conditions, as well as a recommendation that lighting standards be addressed prior to final decision by the Board of Commissioners. There is not a red line version of the conditions. The public hearing was held on March 26th. The proposed use is in conformity with the comprehensive plan. Staff is supportive.
Thank you. This is actually in my district. And the reason for all of these variances, you guys know how I feel about variances generally. I'm not a big fan. This is a case where we have an existing building that is being rezoned and used in its current footprint. So that's the situation that it already has with respect to its buffers and setbacks.
I've got one in Kelly Mill coming up next time.
Yeah. I'd like to make a motion that we approve ZA 3929 to rezone from single-family R2R to office residential OR on .507 acres for a medical office in an existing building with the conditions as displayed.
Second.
We have a motion and a second.
Okay. So we just made a motion with the conditions as displayed.
Yes.
But you clearly want to approve these variances as well,
Oh,
correct?
yes, I do.
Then you need
Would
to
you
go.
like to recall your second?
Yes, but see, it says variances, so that's why
Just
you
include
would
the
think
variances.
it would include the
Yeah.
variances.
Right, but we don't typically like it as much when
Yeah.
the variances are
I'll call
included as
them out.
conditions, so
I'll
if
call
you don't
them out.
mind.
Would you like to remove your second?
I did.
Okay. I'd like to approve ZA 3929 to rezone from single-family residential R2R to office residential OR on .507 acres for a medical office in an existing building, along with variances and conditions as displayed.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Please vote. And that motion passes 5-0. 1C, Tom Brown.
Zoning application 3933, Fine Cuts Custom Cabinetry Incorporated, located in Commission District Number 3. This is a request to rezone 2.752 acres from A1 to M1 to build a 25,000 square foot warehouse to include a 2,500 square foot showroom for wood product manufacturing and to operate a dwelling for a night watchman in an existing 1,408 square foot structure. The property is located on Piney Grove Road. The Planning Commission recommends approval of this rezoning from A1 to M1 with conditions. We have a red line version of the conditions being displayed. The public hearing was held on March 26th. The proposed use is in conformity with the comprehensive plan, and the staff is supportive.
Thank you. Commissioner Levent, this is in your district.
Ethan Underwood, are you handling this one? And is there anybody else here in the audience on this item? Just curious. Thank you. If you'll step up, please. Don't mind, just start at the beginning. I'm going to let Mr. Underwood explain each red line item
Oh, sure.
and why they're asking
Let
for
the
them.
other side come up.
With condition number 1, again, we have a code provision that provides that the site plan has to be complied with. Regarding our proposed condition number 1, where it says the existing residence, this was just to clarify. The gentleman who runs the business, his name is Furman Sanchez. He's an artisan. He's a fantastic cabinet maker, but he's bought the property and there's an existing home on there. So he wants to live on the site and then build the industrial building behind him. So this was just to clarify that the person who would be the night watchman would either own the property or be employed or hired to do that job. Condition number 3 was just to confirm that you could have glass as an exterior building material. Number 5, regarding retaining walls, we added the language that says that the retaining walls that are visible from a right-of-way would have to be faced with stone or brick. But those that are, and this is in an industrial area. It's right next door to the roller skating rink on Piney Grove Road, if you know where that is, which is open for very late hours. The property is not located within the McFarland Parkway overlay. It's adjacent to it, but what our folks have agreed to do is to landscape and put fencing on the front. But we're asking to not have to build the house back to that overlay district. Number 7, the Planning Commission recommended hours to be capped at 6 p.m. and that's just with an industrial building. You often have AC contractors, and we know with the cabinet shop, you may have crews that are coming in from a job at 7 and they may not shut down until 9. Being right next door to the roller skating rink, we asked to be able to.
Can there be a compromise on that, Ethan?
Respectfully,
9's pretty late at night.
This is what I testified to the Planning Commission. I have family that's in the HVAC business. They'll often finish up their last call at 7:30 or 8 o'clock at night, and then they have a crew that's coming in to just empty the truck and load the truck. So we were concerned that there may be folks going in. Now, we agree that there won't be customers coming in at 9 o'clock. I mean, if that would make the commission more comfortable.
And maybe no big 18-wheeler deliveries or something.
We're certainly comfortable with that.
I understand your concept. Okay, go ahead.
Condition number 11 requires the construction of a monument sign, and we don't know that will even be wanted to be done. No matter what happens, we have to comply with the sign ordinance, so we just didn't want to have a condition that says thou shalt build a monument sign. Conditions number 12, we wanted the ability to have an apparel manufacturer. That may be something as simple as a t-shirt shop. Commercial recreational facilities, we don't want an outdoor one, but we would like the ability to have an indoor rec facility. That could be something as just a bounce house or something that. Communication towers, those are conditional uses. If it ever comes up, our client would like to be the ability to ask for a conditional use permit, but this does not grant the conditional use permit. Item P, lumber yards, planing, and sawmills. There will be planing on the property. That's what a cabinet shop does. So we just wanted to make sure that none of this will be done outside. There is a condition that says it has to be inside. We agreed that there would be no restaurants, but occasionally you get, it's like a Baba's Kebabs. As long as the restaurant doesn't have a drive-through, that's what we'd ask to be able to do. Schools, this is going to be a technical business. There may be a voc tech school. That's a possibility.
No service stations would be allowed. You might have some type of a painting shop. And then finally, temporary structures. Those have to be approved by the planning director by code anyway, so that's why we added this language.
Madam Scroller.
I have a quick question here. In your lumber yard exclusion and sawmills, it says provided wouldn't, you mentioned that everything would be inside,
Yes, ma'am.
but is there, have you captured in here anywhere that there would not be any type of business conducted or stored outside of the, I know it says open air businesses, but are you comfortable with that language, Commissioner Levent, that there's not going to be stockpiles of wood and, well, I'm asking the commissioner, actually, not with all due respect, that you feel that you're capturing everything that you
I appreciate that,
want.
too. Go ahead, Ethan, answer.
Condition number 10 prohibits outside storage of material.
Okay. Right. I was looking in the other section.
Madam Chair, if I may also, condition number 6 states that manufacturing, assembly, or other work related to the business shall not be permitted outside of the approved permanent structures.
Thank you. Are there any other questions from the commissioners? Chairman, or Commissioner Levent, what is your pleasure?
Commissioner Levent?
Yes.
I have are you still struggling with condition 7?
I am. I'm just looking at it and seeing, I may leave it as is for the hours, but then add in there that after 7 p.m., there will be it will not be open for customers or deliveries.
Let me offer up a recommendation that it read, the language would read as stated, but then there would be a comma after Saturday, except no retail business or commercial vehicle traffic after 7 p.m.
Call it business traffic?
Well, no, the retail business would be retail transactions. I'm differentiating between retail sales, retail business, but then also prohibiting commercial vehicular traffic. I thought that was the loading, unloading you talked about.
And you don't think that'll be misconstrued as commercial traffic when the workers come back with their equipment for the day? I'm just mostly concerned about the
I don't think that
delivery
would be retail business.
No,
because
that's it, but commercial traffic is what you ended it with.
Well, you could substitute commercial for, if you wanted to keep it loading, unloading traffic, if that's your primary
I put
concern.
commercial traffic in deliveries. Okay, well, hold it right there. Don't move the scroller. I move to approve ZA 3933 to rezone from Agricultural District 1 to Restricted Industrial District M1 on 2.752 acres. As we've seen displayed with the changes on number 7 to read after the word Saturday, there's a comma. There'll be no retail business or commercial traffic or deliveries after 7 p.m.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please vote, or everybody please vote. Used to being in here for work session. Good grief. And that motion does pass with a vote of 5-0. And we are moving on to our additions here. We still have new business number 2. Oh, we did take care of that one too.
Madam Chair, that's mine. I will take that one. This is actually the byproduct of some action the board took actually last year. This was pertaining to an annexation that had come to the board sometime, I believe, in early 2018. The board struggled with this one. This was the applicant for the annexation into the city of Cumming was Linwood Developer Group, LLC. This is a 22.38 acre parcel of property located at 1600 Ronald Reagan Boulevard. The property was proposed to come into the city at HB, and the developer came back to the city and asked that it be zoned to PUD. And the board may remember we had a fairly lengthy discussion about this. Once the board approves or does not object to an annexation, upon that annexation becoming complete, which it did, there's sort of a year period during which the property owner or developer can't ask its new jurisdiction, which is the city, for a new zoning designation. Sort of a year period for just the status quo to be maintained. Now, that can be waived by the Board of Commissioners for the county during that year period. So the Board of Commissioners worked with the developer and candidly came up with an MOU that contained a fairly robust set of what really looked like zoning conditions. And you approved it at a work session. And I will also tell you that the developer has signed it, but it never made its way to a formal ratification in front of the board, so we're doing that now. In my communications with the city, the city has not approved it either, and I am not completely confident they plan to. And the primary reason for that is I believe the year is almost up. And so I'm not sure the city sees a whole lot of utility in approving it. But I still recommend we do, because the city still may. And I think that's just a function of us getting this an approved document with both parties, meaning the counties and the developer's signature on it, and getting it to the county, because I think whatever was good for us in the fall of last year is still good now. And we need to go ahead and get this to the city of Cumming. So the way the statute reads is that it is a one-year period from the date that the annexation was approved by the city of Cumming. And if you look at the memorandum of understanding, you can actually see a blank in there for that date. I am not precisely sure when the city finally consummated the annexation. I think it may have been in June of 2018, so we'd be looking at June of 2019 before they're going to be able to change that zoning. And speaking with the attorneys for the applicant today, that zoning is pending with the city, but they're not going to sign off on it until either we've approved this agreement or until that year expires. So, Madam Chair, that's where we are. If the Board of Commissioners wants to approve this memorandum of understanding, that would be in order. And then what I will do is get a fully finalized document, get it to the city, and see if they still want to approve it. I don't believe for a moment they will, not consider it at all. I just think we're getting close to June,
Right.
which is what they were probably thinking.
Right. Thank you.
Bree?
What is the pleasure?
I'd like to approve the memorandum of understanding as displayed in our book.
Second.
We have a motion and second. Please vote.
Thank you, Board Member.
And that motion does pass with a vote of 5-0. Number 3, discuss the Res 2 conservation category.
Yes. On that, I have had many calls and questions, a lot of confusion expressed regarding the Res 2 conservation once the moratorium was lifted. And with that, I would like for us as a board to discuss that and see what we can do to make this something that is a pure conservation, that it is what it says it is. There are folks that are concerned that it will be abused and used as something to just have smaller lots and crowd houses together. So in order to try to protect our conservation zoning from that, I would like for us to have a discussion on that and see what we can come up with, and possibly going back and looking at our Res 2 conservation zoning category.
Yeah, I think, we did have this set up to be a product of the, because we actually had it out of the UDC and brought it back, and it was scheduled to have a project to address conservation subdivisions as a part of our comprehensive plan. And, the product stayed static from the point at which it was removed from the UDC, and where we've added it back in, and I think the intention was that we would work toward it. So there's certainly an opportunity if we want to discuss amongst the board and, talk to planning as to what it would mean to advance that product and, what we would be looking at shifting to accomplish that. Tom, do you have any comments or to that end.
Well, you are correct. We have it in our community work program to look at the entire chapter, and we had talked about that some when we kicked off the last change to add it back into the code, which we adopted that April 4th. We added back the Res 2 conservation chapter. We could, if I hear from the board, there's interest in discussing this sooner rather than later. What I would like is some time to really look at that project in conjunction with all the other open projects we have, and come back to the next work session with some ideas on what we can move around to make it happen.
I'll tell you, I spent about an hour on the phone with Commissioner Cooper. She raised some pretty good points. And I think some of her concerns are being addressed in the tree ordinance as well. With some of the buffers have to be protected, and what trees you get credit for and what trees you don't are a lot different than we have today. And whether or not we decide how much of wetlands in the architectural control standards we're going to count or not count will maybe also address a lot of Commissioner Cooper's concerns as well. So all this is a lot of moving parts right now, trying to pull them together. Tom, do you remember what green space in the old Res 2 conservation used to be?
40.
Now we're at 40%, but was it 20, 22? Do you remember?
No, not by memory alone. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I think we almost doubled it is where we are. So if you're concerned about, I think all of this will start playing out much clearer.
Well,
playing it
the
out better.
tree ordinance is going to impact every category, though.
Every
That's not going to
category.
be a panacea to fix conservation. If Commissioner Cooper's looking for a true conservation,
That's what I
that
am,
is.
is that it's a true conservation, because you just use that term as a very general, generic term. Again, in the past, I have been told that it was used, or some people feel and think that it was used just to have smaller lots and push houses closer together. That was the opinion, some of the feedback that I've gotten. Now, whether one agrees with that or not, my point is to prevent that sort of ploy from happening in the future. No accusations here, just saying let's be proactive and preventive rather than trying to be reactive and fix it later. So actually, I would like to move that we do an emergency moratorium on this and move it to May 21st work session.
Second.
What? Nobody's even
discussion?
filing for these things. It's not a fantastic.
She doesn't
zone.
want to wait until they do.
I've already been approached twice.
And I'm happy to vote alongside of you. Can we, would you mind if I amend that a little bit? That staff comes with us and we get some true land planners in, because I don't know what true conservation means or not.
I think that,
I think that's an excellent idea.
I think
Yes,
that's implied,
absolutely.
that that's going to be the
Yes.
expectation, that
Yeah.
there's a planner's approach to this, not
Yeah, I don't. but
spitballing it.
That's what I'm afraid we're
As
doing right now,
commissioners.
is we're spitballing this.
We-
Because people don't understand
I think it was
that they
spitballed
have to
before.
use a full, real engineered plan of a real Res 2 to determine how much density they're allowed. They don't just to cram a bunch of lots in, they don't get to do that.
Density is not the same, density, the number of units have to be that, what was a Res 2 anyway.
That's
So it's not a
correct.
matter of density.
That's correct.
We're talking about the location of the lots, we're talking about that which is not buildable land, such as wetlands, such as floodplains, such as slopes that are too steep to be built upon. That can't even be counted. We're talking about a 40% of actual buildable space, and what are you going to do with that? So, yes, I think this needs to be reviewed. I think we need to have real land planners in it. Yes, planning and development in with us on this. And I want it to be done correctly, where it is a pure, real conservation.
So I guess since you agree with everything I said, would you
I do.
mind making your motion when you make the point of the moratorium, is that staff will bring all of this?
Can you restate your amendment, please,
Yeah.
so we can all hear it clearly?
Well, my amendment will be that when we do the moratorium, it's for the purpose of staff bringing true land planners in to show us a true difference of land plan of a Res 2, well, that can't be built in wetlands either, the conservation Res 2 that can't be built in the wetlands, and how they yield. We need real land planners that will bring this all forward to show us how this is really going to lay out.
Tom, is that not implied? If we're asking you to do a true conservation and bring in land planners
does
to do
true
so?
mean?
That
Well,
is,
we didn't do it with MPD, and it doesn't work. That's for sure.
Right.
What does
All right,
true
well,
mean? What does that mean?
Word conservation. Conservation, are you conserving? Are you conserving natural habitat? Are you conserving woodlands? Are you conserving tree specs? What are you conserving? That needs to be clarified.
I clearly understand that, but I think what happens, we're starting to cross over from one code and one ordinance to another, and it's going to be horribly confusing.
I don't have a problem with, I don't see where we're doing that at
Our tree
all.
ordinance is getting ready to address it.
It makes perfect sense
Our
then to
agriculture,
slow the
I mean,
roll
our
on this.
architectural stuff that's coming forward has wetlands in there that you can't calculate those.
And yet we're charging for people to pay on their taxes for them.
We have a motion and a
that's-
second. I'm going to call the
Well,
question,
Ma-
please.
So I will vote alongside of this, I will, but I just want to make sure everybody understands that when people just call in that don't understand true land planning, what does true conservation actually mean? We have three things coming to us that will round this up and make complete sense. And it'll be a crystal clear ball that are coming toward us, and they don't understand all these things.
Okay,
Your point
Commissioner
is well
Van-
taken as a process, Commissioner Van. I believe our counselor would like to add something to this dialogue. And as a reminder to everyone, we do have an active motion and second. Counselor.
Right, okay, so, we're pretty good at enacting moratoriums. We've done a few of them. So a couple of questions very quickly. What is the moratorium? I need to understand what is the moratorium on? For instance, is it on zoning applications or is it on land disturbance permit applications? What is the moratorium on, is my first question.
Okay, the moratorium is on residue conservation.
Zoning applications.
Zoning applications, yes.
Yes, ma'am. Okay, that's helpful. And the reason is, and the purpose and the objective is to be fulfilled is that we are going to take a holistic look at our code with respect to these allowances, this Res 2, and presumably implicit is bring something back and modify that code.
Yes,
Thank you.
yes.
All right. That
One
helps me,
comment,
and here's
too.
what we'll have to do. If the board imposes this evening, which you have the right to do, we have certainly imposed these on and when I use time-sensitive, folks, that doesn't mean you have to use that language. That's me. I'm just saying on an expedited basis, we will then go ahead and run legal ads, and then within 30 days, we'll have to have a formal public hearing to make it longer, because we won't be able to bring this product back in 30 days. So just letting y'all know that.
My only comment is I hope we don't adopt a category that nobody can use. Because we've
don't
done
want that
that,
either.
and we've got too many on the books right now that nobody can use.
I don't want that either. I just want it to not be abused. So
I
I'm trying
totally
to do
agree.
a protection thing, and that we have clear understanding that the developers, that the builders, and that we, as well as planning and development, all the staff, that we have a clear understanding of what this actually means, and that it is conservation. Not just a word that is used,
I agree.
but a genuine conservation.
All right. I'm going to call the question. Please vote. And that motion does pass with a vote of 5-0 to put Res 2 conservation into an emergency 30-day moratorium effective immediately. And we will revisit that as we get closer to that deadline and are moving towards improving that product. Thank you. Number 4, clinic.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. What we place at your stations tonight, hopefully if you can each find this package with agenda request on the top. It starts off with a recommendation for approval of a master services agreement. And if I can draw your attention to that, because I want to focus on the second page, this is a 48-page agreement with a lot of different cost implications involved in it, and they're significant. So what I tried to prepare, hopefully to help with our understanding, is a one-page summary of the cost implications directly underneath the agenda request. If each of the board members has that, I'll field questions, but I'll take a couple minutes to walk you through that, if that's okay. I put on there projection of potential costs under this agreement for both this year, the startup year. I used the September 1st date, assuming, because once this agreement is executed, that puts them under a 120-day limit to be ready to open the health center. And of course, we're relying on a builder right now to build the building within 120 days, and hopefully this will all come together by September 1st. So that being said, what is in this agreement is basically 4 types of costs. The top section, I put the startup costs, which we anticipate having to get this thing up and running. And then the other 3 sections would be true ongoing from year to year, as far as the staffing cost, our restocking, pharmaceutical and supply costs, and then their program fees. So under the 2019 column at the top, for startup costs, you see 5 different things listed there. The first one has to do with the equipment that we're responsible to reimburse them for setting up a health center with 2 exam rooms. Also in this agreement, I put the references over to the right as far as where these things are in the agreement so you can see them. In the attachments, we're providing 2 computers for the staff at $1,500 a computer. There's setup costs for setting up the dispensing of the pharmaceuticals, and that setup fee is $6,000, as well as the initial medication stock that we pay for directly, the initial formulary, if you will, of just over $4,800. And then their implementation fee over that 4-month period is $78,891. What's included in that is not only their management of getting everything set up and in place and ready to go, but their recruiting, their staffing, their license, everything they need to do to get medical providers in place. And also, I think what's also key is their marketing and communications, because they're going to enter an effort with our staff to make sure that employees are well informed and the information goes out about what this health center is for, how they can use it, what's available to the employees as a benefit. So all of that in the first year, one time, we're showing as initial cost of just over $106,000. The next 3 sections are the ongoing cost. We expect this health center with HealthStat's managing of it to start with 2 providers, 1 a nurse practitioner and 1 a medical office assistant. And they provide those at an hourly rate, depending how many hours a week we have the center open. And those numbers are projected out for the remaining 4 months of this year as well as a full year next year. If you're trying to divide the 1 by 3 and get the other numbers, it won't be exactly matched because I put 17 weeks in there for that last 4 months of the year. There's an extra week in there. The middle section, on-site cost, is our responsibility as the county for when they do labs and they send them out to a lab to be processed. There's a pass-through cost that we pay for. Of course, there's clinic supplies that we're responsible for. And then as they start dispensing the pharmaceuticals, restocking the dispensary there. And then the third section there, below that, the program administration, is the fees that go to HealthStat at about $11,500 per month. We also are paying for our appointment scheduling, so this is where the employees would be able to call in, and the hours are broader than the 40 hours of the clinic. They start about 7 in the morning, go later in the evenings. They include some Saturday hours. They can call in for scheduling to make appointments. And we also made sure we included, we thought this was important, an after-hours call program. This is where around the clock, if there's a medical concern for our employees, they can call in and talk to a medical professional. It's not for appointments. It's not for a question about billing, and there is no billing for this, but it's for them to get assistance when it's off hours. So we thought that was important to include. So all that adds up to the operating costs for either the remaining 4 months of this year, along with the startup cost, and then I included an estimate of facility costs at the bottom, which is purely an estimate because we're still negotiating the per-foot basis and what our responsibility will be for utilities. Now, I want to add 2 important comments to this, which I think are important for context. You may remember first time we brought this forward, they had an escalator clause in there every year of, it was 4%. So we went back, we got our consultant involved, we negotiated with them, questioned them on that. They brought that down to 3%, which interestingly is the same rate we have in our annual ambulance contract. So I guess for medical services, 3% is acceptable.
And did that compare to other counties?
And I think it's comparable to others. From what our consultant told us, what he's looked at. And then the other thing that's important to remember about this, look at the full year cost for operating this of just over $500,000 for a full year, assuming these estimates for supplies. I'm viewing this, and here's the important content, as our maximum cost. Now, it's out of pocket. Here's what I mean by that. For every appointment that's made at this health center by an employee or a dependent that goes here, that's one less appointment that goes to another health provider or the emergency room, which we can pay over $1,000 for. So that means that we invest this cost of $500,000 less the claims we're not going to see coming through our program. So the true accounting cost, if you will, is going to be something less than this dollar amount. And if the health center is used a lot, as they often give guarantees, and we're going to work through that with them in January, where they expect in 2 years they can commit to you're getting a return on investment even. So in other words, you put in $500,000, they expect you to save that much in your claims and pharmaceuticals. So this, hopefully, in essence, is what you'll see is in this agreement, along with all the different services that are provided. And there's a lot of flexibility for whatever we would want to add in the future for other services. We can do that. And by the way, they've been very good to work with, I think, through this agreement. Often when you have to have an agreement with any provider of anything, and you get their attorneys and our attorney, everyone's working on these things, you go through a lot of things. They've been very agreeable with the terms and very cooperative and helpful in this, and that's encouraging. I think they're a very experienced provider because they have about 300 of these centers around the country, and they've got a number of them in Georgia. So
I think it'll be very important that we, I don't know, after 6 months, that we interview our employees and say, you know, is it meeting your needs? Is there something we can
Yep.
add? Is there something lacking?
Right.
I think communication will be very important with our employees.
Exactly. What they do, because they're very concerned about the quality of their service, is they actually have ways to interview them and have them do surveys even as they leave and go back home, and they can fill it out and send it back in. Because this provider, and others too that we had interviewed, this provider is very concerned that they give quality health service to our employees. I mean, this is our provider for our employees. And I think it's a good service to offer. And again, we'll be offering this at no copay to employees, and not even the dispensing of the pharmaceuticals prepackaged will not be a copay for employees.
Great.
So that's the agreement. Hopefully that summary helps the commission to be comfortable with it. If you are and you approve this tonight, as soon as this is signed, they will get to work. Their 120-day clock starts ticking, and they start recruiting and promoting and getting ready to open this up. And so far, I think it looks like this should be a very positive thing for employees. I'm hopeful we can get open enough early enough in the fall, and we've talked to staff about it, if we can do our flu shots there, and that would get people exposed to the health center. We used to do that as an on-site thing a couple years ago in the county, and we stopped it. I know every year my wife and I scream, where do we go for our flu shots? What do we do? Get your doctor, my doctor? It'd be great to be able to make an appointment and come here and get flu shots, those types of things. Pre-employment, physicals, drug testing we're looking at being able to do, and we'll implement this, not all at once, but over time. But we're looking hopefully for a very positive experience through this, and with people who are very experienced at doing this.
It's a great idea, I really do. It sounds wonderful, and a lot of cost savings for you. I know that you said that they process our premiums, the insurance company processes our premiums, but we're not exactly, could you explain to me how that is? Because it seems, I'm just curious.
Sure.
It seems to me that this could also help in the future, down the line, reduce premiums and insurance costs.
Right.
So,
And that's why this is all funded through our health insurance program, which both the county and the employees are paying into. Of course, our health insurance is self-insured, so it's not really Aetna insurance. They're our TPA. So when any of us that are under coverage go to the doctor, we give them our Aetna card. Aetna processes the claim, and then every week we get a bill here in the county to reimburse Aetna for all the claims they've paid. So that's why I'm saying we literally pay the claims through our program. So every claim this saves is a savings to our program and helps to cover these costs.
great, wonderful. Thank you, Dave.
From a cash flow standpoint, are we assuming that these startup costs would be coming up to us sooner, and then these other ones will come on? And during this period before the facility is actually open to the employees to visit, is there any type of a monthly fee other than the setup that we're going to be doing for that? Because you do show a a monthly fee of $11,499.75. That will not start until the
Until it's
facility's
open.
actually open
Right.
in September.
Right.
We're
Or
gonna
whatever
say.
date it is, that's their monthly fee once it opens and we're operating it.
But until then, it's just the startup costs for their
Right.
marketing efforts and that type of thing to get the program.
Right, that's
Out there to the
78,000.
employees.
The 78,891 is the number in this agreement that we're paying them
Okay.
to do all the startup management.
Thank you.
I would love to give some kudos to Commissioner Mills. It was about 2.5 years ago when she dragged me over to go meet Hall County commissioners who are already doing this. And instantly I'm looking at it going, what a great idea. So this started 2.5 years ago, and unfortunately it's taken so long to get here. But I instantly jumped on board, and this is just something I'm glad seeing come to fruition.
Let's just hope it goes good and the employees like it. And if they don't, we got to fix it.
And by the way, I will throw something negative at you before the meeting to balance out that nice
I
comment.
know you will.
By the way,
There's plenty of meeting left.
By the way, when the company's recruiting, we get to see who they are recruiting to come and be here, because the success of this is really going to depend on how our employees and dependents connect with the providers there. If they like their experience there, they'll want to go there. And we have a right for refusal and things like that too. If we have any problems, there's a pathway in here to talk to the company and say, we're having a problem with one of your staff. So we are very connected in this agreement to who they staff and how they do it.
They send people out to talk to the employees to sort of get them to use it? Are we going to use like our communications people to
Right,
try to get
right.
them to
Yeah.
really go out and talk up all the services.
Yeah, my understanding is it'll be quite a promotional campaign. It might include meetings of employees, other types of communications, and whatever works best to get the word out is but that's part of what they do. So.
We need to put out a lot of the word free. Yeah. Free.
With respect to the employees' satisfaction with the service provided, are we going to do any type of a post-visit survey where the data will come straight back to us so that we're not getting it filtered through the provider?
Yeah, I mean, they have reporting requirements to us. We can, like Commissioner, we can do our own surveys as well. And I think we'll find out pretty quick. We'll start hearing from employees, because it's interesting if a department head or someone that's a manager in a department goes and has a good experience, we learned this from other counties, and they come back and word of mouth their employees is, I went to the health center and it was a good experience and I was able to get in right away, didn't have to wait. Word of mouth is going to help this as much as anything, but we're not depending on that to get started. We want the whole campaign to start it off. So.
But it will be beneficial if they have posters and things that we can put up in all the buildings. We don't need to forget about all the departments that are outside of this building, and then if each department head helps promote it, it will really be beneficial too.
Yeah, and our recommendation is we allow employees on the clock, if they have a need to go, they're not feeling well, please get over to our health center, make an appointment now, they'll get you in and see you, instead of going and waiting at another a clinic or emergency room or something like that.
Great. And it's the benefit of the job.
Yes, well, we're viewing this as additional benefit for the employees.
Mm-hmm.
Commissioner Mills, this is your baby. You want to make the motion?
I'll be happy to. Ken, do you just want it
You need to
approve?
approve the contract as presented by the CFO.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion, a second. Please vote.
Thank y'all for your efforts.
And that motion does pass with a vote of 5-0. We still have a few people sitting around. I think they're waiting for the public hearing number 4.
Madam Chair, board members, I think we're there.
I think we're there.
All right. Madam Chair, board members, this evening we have a public hearing with respect to proposed modifications to the Forsyth County Unified Development Code. This would actually be the third public hearing on this version of how we have been addressing short-term rentals. The first public hearing on this concept, which is what I'm calling the CUP concept, occurred on February 26th of 2019. The Planning Commission actually, I think, was not supportive and provided some very specific guidance to the Board of Commissioners with respect to this proposed UDC modification. The Board of Commissioners then considered it at its own public hearing on March 7th of 2019. I hope I've been saying 2019 and not 2016. 2019. And at that point, the board, I think, wanted to think about it a little longer. And in fact, I think it may have had some additional, maybe a town hall or some additional interaction with stakeholders. Then we got to the March 26th work session where the board gave specific direction that we return a product that was a CUP product, but was a conditional use permit that would allow short-term rental, as that concept is defined, in the zoning categories of agricultural and res ag, or as reg, as a CUP. And so that is the product that you have in front of you this evening. This would require a conditional use permit for a short-term product to be a permitted use in either agricultural or ag res. Short-term rental, as defined in this UDC modification, is an accommodation for transient guests rented for the purpose of overnight lodging for a period of less than 30 days. There's more to it, but that's the actual substantive definition of what it would be. The CUP itself provides that in addition to our general and special considerations that are in Chapter 8 that we always apply to CUPs, that there would be some additional considerations that are sort of short-term specific, like overnight occupancy load, number of guests expected, daytime occupancy, number of bedrooms, capacity of paved or impervious surface parking, lot sizes, distance from lot lines, and sewer capacity. So obviously some fairly utilitarian considerations. The version you have in front of you on enumerated page 3 is very clear that the performance tables of the UDC would be modified to include short-term rental as a specific performance or available use in all of our zoning categories, but it would reflect X, not permitted in everything except Ag 1 and Ag Res, and there you would see a C, which means conditional use. Madam Chair, that is the presentation this evening, and the Board of Commissioners, following this public hearing, should it so choose, may adopt.
Thank you. And just as a reminder, since we've kind of moved a little distance away from the usual announcements regarding the rules of speakers during the public hearing process, that process is 10 minutes per side. And in order to aid our staff in making sure that everybody who has an opportunity, everybody who wishes to speak has an opportunity, can I please see a show of hands of how many people are here to speak on behalf of short-term rentals? I'm going to give Karen a moment to count.
I'm seeing 9, ma'am. With 10 minutes, that would give everyone 1 minute.
Okay. Thank you. Hold on to that. Can I see a show of hands for people who are here to speak on the other side?
I believe I see 6, ma'am.
6, okay.
And I was incorrect. There were 12 to speak on the other way, so each person would have less than 1 minute.
Do you want to extend the time so that everybody gets at least a minute? Or are there people who, we're trying not to be too repetitive here in that we've had so many public hearings and special called meetings on this subject matter? Combine them? Those speakers combine? Go ahead,
It's the
Commissioner
same points to make, just if you can combine them and keep it at a set amount.
We're going
We
to
need
get 20
to-
minutes each side to see where we are, and they regulate themselves down to a
15.
minute and a half or something.
Madam Chair, the time is up to the board. That's
Right.
completely up to you. I would just recommend we do have a bifurcated, those for the amendment and then those against the amendment as proposed. I do think the ZPL anticipates we'll do it that way.
Right. Yeah, I'm trying to determine, we've seen some pretty unbalanced turnouts before, and I'm trying to make sure that everybody who wants to speak has an opportunity to do so without unfairly distributing time.
Let me offer up this, because we got into this before. So
Right.
there is the requirement of equal time.
Right.
But there's no requirement of equal opportunity. And what I mean by that is we have to provide the same opportunity for both
Same 10
sides. So
minutes.
if it's going to be 10 or 15 minutes per side, that's fine. But I will say this, there's no requirement of sort of rebuttal. I mean, once the speakers have come up and said their piece and sit down, even if they have time remaining, that's fine, but we don't have to recognize that. Does that make sense? Everybody gets the same amount of time, but
Right.
once everybody has said their piece, we're done.
Okay.
And I think we actually enforced that rule last time when there was time left over. We just said we're done. So that's all I would ask of the board.
Okay. Or 15,
20 each.
20.
Somebody
make a motion.
I make a motion, we go 20 minutes to each side with a maximum minute and a half per person.
Second.
We have a motion for 20 minutes max per side, a minute and a half per person. Please vote. That motion passes with a 3-2 vote.
5 minutes.
Okay, we will go 20 minutes per side max, minute 90 seconds per person max. Is there a motion to open the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
Is there a second? We have a motion and a second. Please vote.
I already am.
We're off to a good start.
Commissioner Levin, are you ready to open the public hearing?
Yes.
Please vote. Thank you. Commissioner Cooper? The public hearing is now open. Who's here to speak in favor of, I don't know that anybody's in favor of what's presented.
Well,
I've heard arguments against it on both sides.
that's all we got.
So we'll just say people who are in favor of regulation as presented or as potentially they may see it. Please come forward at this time.
Ed Stanzak, 7745 Scenic Drive, Cumming, Georgia. Good evening. I promise I will be brief. But I think it's important to remind you how we got here in the first place. For the past 3 years, we've had to tolerate a barrage of trash, noise, trespassing, property damage, threats, and intimidation basically stemming from the short-term rentals in our area. I also think it's important that you hear my belief that this is not just a Breeze Bay problem. Complaints about short-term rentals in residential neighborhoods are present elsewhere in Forsyth County and extend to our nation at large. As I'm sure you are all aware by now, on March 13th, the Federal Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals upheld Santa Monica's ban on short-term rentals, much to the chagrin of Airbnb and HomeAway. I also think it's important that you hear my belief that regulating short-term rentals is not government overreach. With the enactment of Forsyth County's UDCs several years ago, the Board of Commissioners got into the zoning business. Making decisions about how properties are used in Forsyth County is exactly what you're required to do as an elected body. To that end, I would make the following points. First, this is about one thing and one thing only, and that is zoning. Secondly, short-term rentals are businesses, very, very big businesses. Thirdly, for all the reasons I gave you earlier as to why we are here in the first place, short-term rentals in residentially zoned neighborhoods are businesses that are
90 seconds.
Incompatible with the character of the neighborhoods in which they exist.
Time.
Fine. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening again. My name is Steve Paul, and I live in Breeze Bay subdivision as you all already know. He pretty much covered everything that I was going to cover, so I'm not going to waste any more time. I'm of a personal opinion that each of you have already decided which way you're going to go with this. There's really nothing more that can be said. You've heard it all over and over and over again. So I'm going to limit my time, and I'm just going to ask you for two things, and that's to enforce the code and return our neighborhoods back to us. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioners. My name is Karen Cobb. I live in Forsyth County. I, too, will be brief. I just think it's difficult to imagine how an STR tears apart the fabric of a community, of a neighborhood. We have experienced that and continue to experience this barrage of strangers. They're not our neighbors. They're not people we can get to know. Even the well-behaved ones, it's a constant barrage of strangers. It's unsettling and it's unnerving. Please give us our neighborhood back. Thank you.
Good evening, Commissioners. Thanks for hearing the STR topic again. I have my Marine Corps Marathon shirt on because this has been a marathon. So thank you for hearing us.
If you could give us your name real quick.
Oh,
for
sure.
the record.
Sorry.
Thanks.
Robin Duvall, 22-year Forsyth County resident. Just this week, a neighbor and I were out doing our evening walk, and we came across one of the neighbors who had an STR over the weekend, and there were 15 bags of garbage in the cul-de-sac, driveway where they lived, in their streets. And the neighbor and I went and got some garbage bags and cleaned up their mess. So it was a Friday to Sunday. The garbage normally comes on Monday, but something had gotten into it and thrown the garbage all over the cul-de-sac in the yard. So we cleaned it up, but the reason I'm here is because it's a constant reminder of why we are here, because we don't want people coming Friday to Sunday in our residential neighborhood. So I just ask that you think about the residents that live in these neighborhoods that have to have these transient guests that come Friday to Sunday because they don't take care of their neighbors and properties like we do. So thank you.
Hello again, y'all. My name is Randy Cock. I'm a resident of Forsyth County for 19 years.
We've been discussing this issue for 2+ years, and you've heard it all. We hope that we can end this tonight. During the last 2 years, you voted unanimously to restrict STRs from residentially zoned neighborhoods. The Planning Commission then voted unanimously for the same thing, only recommending a stronger legal framework. In other words, after hearing all of the arguments that can be made over 2.5 years, you have together voted 10-0 to do the right thing, and we ask that you confirm that tonight. During all of this time, STRs have continued to operate illegally, that is, in violation of existing county regulations inside residentially zoned neighborhoods. And now, after all that, in the last 3+ years, we hear ridiculous things like self-regulation and a proposal for STR HOAs. This, of course, is ridiculous because it asks us to agree to STRs in our home areas, the very thing that we're trying to get rid of. I wanted to reiterate 2 frivolous arguments that the other side has used against the prohibition of STRs in Forsyth County. Number one, lodging services definition. There's their perception that when the UDC was drafted and they defined the performance criteria for home business and home occupation, that they say that the definition in that section was designed to prevent a resident from using their home to run a service that makes a reservation for a different property. And then they also say that the 6-night limit only applies inside of a home, that when the UDC was developed, that it wasn't referring to the number of days you can rent an entire house you see on a plat. They were focused on definition of the use of a so-called dwelling unit inside of a house. We know you're likely to hear a variety of from around the country, and we could have you wasted your time talking about the federal ruling that we just talked about. But
Sorry, we had 90 seconds.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a little fast. Probably
to
2
count
minutes would have been
together,
better, but we are where we are.
I'm Jay Hendricks. I live at 7830 Point Court in Cumming. This is a simple issue. It's the simplest vote you'll ever make. On one side is a group of businesses called short-term rentals. They want to put them everywhere, unrestricted, totally. That's happening nationwide. It's being opposed nationwide, and we're winning it in the courts. The other side says we want one particular place where we can live in peace and security, and those are called family residential neighborhoods. That's all this is about. One side is fueled by money, and quite frankly, by greed, if you look at it. It's not just a business, not just a small business. Airbnb is the 3rd most valuable company in the world. Thank you.
I'm David Neal, 3195 Lanier Beach South. Just like to bring up what you voted on earlier today already. You were all concerned about this cabinet business, I believe, in Mr. Levint's district, and how we wanted to make sure that there wasn't going to be any retail business after 7 o'clock. We wouldn't want to disturb the neighbors. Well, folks, it just gets started at 7 o'clock, and it's 7 days a week. So I don't know how we're concerned about a commercial business. We want to make sure that closed down, but yet 40 people can rent next door to me. That's okay. 40 people, and it's not subjectivity. Look, it's objectivity. It's on VRBO. They list that 38 people can sleep there, as little as 1 night, or 2 nights, or 3 nights, and it just gets started at 7. And I know we went through this thing about noise ordinance earlier, I think it was last year. Unfortunately, that came through as you folks see daytime goes up to 11 p.m. And that ordinance got passed, and the nighttime decibel rating doesn't start till 11 p.m. I would like to see nighttime be nighttime. Nighttime starts before 11 p.m., but it passed here that it starts at 11 p.m. But I hope you make the right decision here. Somehow it got passed that I had made an agreement with the people next door to me. They're nice people. John Carter spoke right here, said he built that with the intention of renting it.
Sorry.
My name is Selma Paul. I live in Forsyth County. Just briefly, I hope you all will consider what this will impact, how this will impact Forsyth County, specifically all houses around the lake. It's not just certain residences, it's everybody who lives near the lake, because it's going to be so lucrative. People are just waiting to see what you do so they can make decisions on, okay, I'm going to put my house on the market. We're going to either leave or we're going to rent it out. It's huge business, it's lucrative, and that's why the other people really want to have short-term rentals. My husband and I woke up last weekend to a truck and a boat on a trailer parked behind our fence on our lot. We called the sheriff, they did come out, and they said, it's not in the street, there's nothing we can do, you can have it towed. Well, my husband called, left a message for the person we know who has that short-term rental. We never got a call back, and it stayed there for 2 days, not wanting to cause trouble and being a little intimidated because the person has intimidated a lot of people. We just left it there. It did eventually go away, but this happens over and over and over. It is a problem for anyone who lives near a short-term rental. We also talked to the Corps of Engineers, and they were very concerned about the septic tanks not being able to handle the kind of traffic that is in these houses. Thank you.
Is there anyone else who'd like to speak from that side? Mr. Koch? There's 11 minutes remaining. Well, they've got 11 minutes remaining. We probably only needed 15.
We did some quick math, and we figured out there was 6 speakers in a minute and a half. We were a little outnumbered. So I did want to point out, though, on behalf of some other people that aren't here tonight, we did hear a request, I think it was from Molly, to hear from the others, more people that were involved in the same problem. So we reached out to some of our friends. We did have a couple of emails sent out to you, but I will say that we got a couple of people to come here to the meeting. And I don't know if any of you have seen the videos that have been out there. I know that Cindy, you were featured in one of them. And I know that you've been featured in some of the others, but you know, they took down one of my neighbors, or one of my good friends, and I think you know who I'm talking about. And it was a nasty, despicable video saying there's a bad person doing bad things. And you know, if you think that there's not more people out there that would support us, I think you're wrong. There's other people that would, but they don't want to get involved. They think that we're going to be able to handle it ourselves. And they just assume that that problem is not going to happen in their next door neighborhood. But you know, I did want to speak out on behalf of my friend who got taken down on this thing. There are others out there, and I wish that you know they had a chance to come up here and speak, and that they didn't have to feel like they were going to be threatened. And we do have 2 neighbors that refuse to come to this meeting because they've been physically threatened by the other side. Just want to let you know about that. Thanks.
Anyone else? Going, gone. All right. We can reset the clock for the other side. And anyone who is here to speak in opposition to this regulation we're considering, please come forward. You may.
My name is Pam Odell, and I am the Executive Director of the Short-Term Rental Owners Association of Georgia. We're a statewide organization. We represent a very broad, diverse membership, low-income people that are renting out a room and people that have fancy houses, yes. I want to say that today you had 2 choices. You really have 2 choices. One is you can make a policy, which is that's what you're responsible to do, or you can take people's property rights. I travel around the state, and I see people make policy all the time, good policy. It takes skill and patience and effort, and so I haven't seen that from this board. What I have seen is my people create a proposal, which took us a lot of work, me personally, a lot of work, which works throughout the United States and in Georgia, and I will take some time to describe it to you. I'd like to, since you gave it to me as an assignment at the last board meeting. I want to say that if you weigh in favor of a ban, you're going to allow other people to weigh in. You're going to allow a judge to weigh in. You're going to allow the General Assembly to weigh in. I've had 20 years down at the state capitol, so I know a little bit about the sentiment of the folks in the General Assembly. They're not in favor of a ban, and leadership is strongly opposed to a ban. The last word I want to say.
Time.
Okay.
Anybody give me their time?
We have
Well, why
press.
don't we wait till everybody cycles through, and if there's remaining time at that point, we'll look at that. That's the way we handled it for the other side.
Hello, I'm Steve Guello. I'm resident of Forsyth County, and listening to the folks from the Breeze Bay subdivision again.
Is that president of the association for Forsyth County?
I'm a resident of Forsyth
Oh, I thought you said
County.
president. Okay, resident of Forsyth.
I
She
am
thought
the
so too, so it's not just me.
County, and
Okay.
you need to-
Resident, there you go. We all heard president.
Okay. Okay, I want my time back. Okay.
Give him back about 5 seconds. All right, go ahead.
Anyways, thank you so much. We have a lake that's public lands, and our folks that want to ban short-term rentals and get it out of a neighborhood, they live in a neighborhood that if you drive in there, you would assume that it has covenants. You would assume that it has a protective covenants. But the rest of the shoreline, but it doesn't. But the rest of the shoreline, everybody builds their homes 5 feet away from public lands. So we want our neighborhood back. Or is it we want to protect government land that's behind our house and restrict access for other people to enjoy what belongs to everybody? And not only restrict access, restrict safe access. And I'm going to say this once, a second time, restricting safe access, meaning to enjoy the lake for multiple days without having a bed to sleep in, a place to recover. You go out and enjoy boating the next time. It's safe boating. You do this, Forsyth County has no beds on the lake. Not a cabin, not a hotel, not anything. Yes, we have the day.
Time.
Okay, the day use areas.
I'm sorry, you've hit your time limit.
Okay. Well,
Should have left it at 2 minutes.
Good evening, Kyle Howland, 9500 Kane Circle. My first and foremost thing is I want to thank you for what you all do. I've never actually sat in on one of these until I was here a few weeks ago. I can't imagine being in your seats. Certainly a lot of responsibility and a lot of time, energy, and money that you guys spend, so thank you. I just, from my heart of hearts, want you to know that the description that some of these individuals talk about us is not true. We're not greedy. We're not self-righteous. Myself, I have 2 rentals on the lake, never had one neighbor complain. Matter of fact, to the last meeting, I actually brought them and wanted you to hear from them. What Breeze Bay is talking about and some others, 250 plus rentals in Forsyth County on the lake, and we hear from one group of people, rightly so. I almost wish I was your neighbor, because I guarantee you would never have a problem. You wouldn't be picking up trash, you wouldn't be doing any of that. But I'm not. And I think it's hard for us to sit back and look at a group, an organization that loves their homes, loves their residents. I get that, I do too. But they didn't vote for an HOA. But they're asking you in ways to vote for an HOA to limit people who own property on Lake Lanier from doing what they choose to do with their property. So I know myself, we have cameras at our house. We're very strict about who goes in. They're outside, they don't take pictures inside. But we're very strict about who comes and goes in our house. We treat them like family, and that's why they come back, and they treat our home like it's their home. So thank you for all you do. Appreciate it.
Hi, Nikia Peterson, 9490 Kane Circle. I would like to, thank you very much for listening to me and the opinions of what short-term rentals are doing is not necessarily so. I have been blessed with a home that I'm not able to stay in all the time. And I look out and I see my kids and my nieces and nephews playing, and I'm like, this home is empty a lot. Why not share that with other people? Why not share my blessings that God's given me with other people? Do I make money off of it? I do. Do I have to make money off of it? I do not. Do I make a ton of money off of it? No, I don't need to. I don't want to. I do it because it allows people, families, as myself, my children, when they were growing up, they did not have the opportunity to live on a lake. But we had the opportunity to rent a home on the lake. Their memories came from that. That's why I do it. That's why we do it. And to say that it runs down the neighborhoods, had the opportunity to purchase a second home. We built that house that was really should have been condemnable. We built it up to an absolutely beautiful home and has raised value in our neighborhood. So please consider not just the fact that people are out there making money, but people want to make a difference in other people's lives and allow memories to be made by families and with children that would not be able to do it because they cannot afford to live on the lake. But this gives them that
time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for allowing me to speak. My name is Julia Matthews, 610 Oakstone Glen. In much simpler times, the Declaration of Independence was written in 1776, the Constitution 1787, the Bill of Rights 1791. Important life-changing legislations take many, many years to properly draft. What is being proposed is based on 22 complaints with no citations, arrests, or fines. It will be life-altering for many of us if you pass this ordinance. We have members who supplement their Social Security income with their rental income. People like me who need to utilize the property to help with medical expenses. We all want the same thing, peaceful people who will not destroy our property or the peace and tranquility of our neighbors. Everyone in this room has the right to life, liberty, and property. Implementing this proposed ordinance will not only cost me my life, but also my property. I'd like to ask those in this room if they would raise their hand if they do not want government to regulate what you can or cannot do in your home. Thank you.
My name is Gil Alberson. I live in Forsyth County. I do not have rental property. Prices of home are ridiculous for young couples starting out. Some young couples have joined Airbnb to get additional income to pay for their home. These homes were purchased and mortgaged based on projected income not encumbered by the ordinance, proposed ordinance. People who bought their short-term rental property paid a high price on Lake Lanier. They expected this investment to help pay for itself, and ultimately, when they retired, they would have a better and more conservative return on their investment. Now, you are voting on a proposal that will take away their property rights and their investment for retirement. I read the Forsyth Herald police reports, and I have never seen a complaint listed for VRBO. You are changing the rules for the current owners of short-term rental. This change is not morally right based upon the number of complaints. Why not grandfather current short-term renters and then have these new rules for persons buying subsequent property? It's imperative that a safety net for those current VRB owners be established. It would be fair, honest, and moral. This is Easter.
Time.
Please do the right thing.
Hello, I'm Crystal Wedby. You've seen me before. I'm a Forsyth County resident. I did not plan on speaking today. I'll have to get a form afterwards. I came up because the new proposed ordinance specifically speaks to my situation being on an agriculturally zoned property. I don't even understand why the proposal is that I would need to go through the trouble of getting a cup, paying fees. Unlike what has been alleged about short-term rental owners, I do not make a lot of money out of this, and I do rely on the income. So I just wanted to specifically speak to this idea of requiring me to jump through these hoops to be able to rent the cabin on my property on agriculture. I've never bothered anybody. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Dan Kalinowski. I live at 5640 Pilgrim Point Road. I've been a resident of the county for 20 years. STRs are a new phenomenon. I mean, they're exploding nationally, internationally, globally. There's no doubt about that. But the question is, how large are they within the county? We have data now that will hopefully illustrate that. Right now, there are over 200 short-term rentals in the county. That's everything from a bedroom to a large home that's on the lake. The average price per night on that is about $200. And the average number of nights per year, we're talking about 120 nights per year per property. What does that mean? That means that we're generating over $5 million in terms of lodging. Now, if we were to take 5% of that, which is what comes back to the county, we're talking in the neighborhood of $260,000 annually. In addition to that, when you throw in expenses, we're talking about groceries, boat rental, gas, a couple meals out. We're talking about another $204,000. So essentially, we're talking about $465,000 annually that could be coming into the coffers of the Chamber of Commerce. We sent a couple of people over and met with the Chamber yesterday and discussed this. We want to contribute to the tourism of the county. That's what we're after. We want to be ambassadors. We want to distribute information about the county, where to go, where to eat. We're constantly asked those questions. This $465,000 we're talking about would represent 20% of their budget.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Hello, my name's Michael Dome. I've lived in Forsyth County for over 20 years, and I've lived on Lake Lanier for close to 10. I'm going to give most of my time to the next speaker, but I just want to point out my business is more technology and future, and what the future holds is a sharing economy. Whether Forsyth County likes it, whether the residents of Breeze Bay like it, it's a national thing. It's happening all over the world. Italy, France, it's already started in the US. I would propose that you might take a look at how, instead of trying to fight it, you find a good way to work with the sharing economy, because it's coming and we won't be able to stop it. Thank you.
Peter Bertel, 5410 Honeysuckle Trail. I wanted to run through something real quick here. New York City, Charleston, Nashville, New Orleans, San Francisco, San Diego, Santa Monica, which was not banned, by the way. That's not true. That was a false statement. They didn't ban it. Okay, all they did was allow the regulation of it. Okay, and what's even scarier is the Ninth Circuit has been mentioned twice in here. You know what all of those cities have in common? They're all democratically run cities that have put in strict short-term rental either controls in place around short-term rentals. This county has been Republican landslide votes since 1968. Since 1968. And here we are. If you were actually to put this into place, what you're effectively doing is banning short-term rentals in the county by doing agriculture. There is not a stricter law in the country than you would enact in this county. In the country. And we're supposed to be Republicans? Some of you have slogans on your Facebook pages: vote Republican, vote conservative. This isn't conservative. This is the most liberal, draconian policies that you could put forth in the entire country. And to call yourself Republicans, I scratch my head, I really do. And we brought forth proposals on how we can be good short-term rental owners, and we don't even get feedback, right? We've asked to sit down with you and have discussions, and we're not allowed to, right? So it's not
Time.
You're protecting them.
Thank you.
You're not representing the folks.
My name is Al Webster. I'm a resident of Forsyth County. We hear a lot of allegations and accusations. There's no proof of any of that. Tonight I heard about a boat being parked behind someone's house. It was blamed on a short-term rental. I happen to know it sounded like the folks in Breeze Bay were suggesting that was one of Ken Heyman's short-term rentals. And I happen to know for a fact, because I talked to him earlier today, he has not rented his home short-term until this weekend is his first renter, and of course he's booked up for the rest of the summer, so he'll be doing a lot of it. That was just, there's a lot of that goes on where full-time residents using their own property get blamed as their short-term renters, and when they're not. I also heard about physically threatened. I don't believe that. I think that was an absolute falsification. There have been no citations issued for people out of the 22 supposed complaints. Not a single citation. Nobody was doing anything wrong. The boat apparently wasn't. If somebody parked a boat in their car in my yard, I think I would have a way to get it out. I'm not sure that story is even true, because it just sounds so implausible. I mean, how does that happen? And then there's this talk about short-term rentals all regulated all over the country. This is Forsyth County, Georgia. Every community is unique, and to talk about what happens in Miami Beach, and that's why we need to shut it down in Forsyth County.
Time.
Doesn't make any sense. Thank you.
Is there anyone else who'd like to come forward? You have to come to the podium. Thank you. At the podium, please.
Hi, I'm going to yield my time to Pam. I just want to make one quick comment. Mark Culbertson, 3835 Peach Bluff Court, Duluth, Georgia. I have a property here in Forsyth that I rent. Also one in Hall. Just so you know, Hall County, of course, has passed an ordinance, but it allows minimum of 2 nights. So that's a big change, and you ought to ask one other time, what's Hall doing? Well, that's what they're doing. They are allowing 2 nights. And I could give you the lady's name there that I spoke to, but I don't think that's appropriate. But you can find out that is what your neighbor's doing. The other thing I wanted to ask is, who in here would like an ordinance that restricts short-term rentals? The folks are over here, we know that, but those folks who sit over here, we have been talking about this, and Commissioner Mills has said this. For 2.5 years, we've talked about this. There's Facebook ads being run about come to the meeting if you're concerned about this issue. 2.5 years, and this is the group that is worried about it. I mean, if there was really a big problem, I believe this whole place would be filled up. But in 2.5 years, you've got about 8 people, the same 8 people, in 2.5 years. That would be something that I would take into consideration for sure if I was a commissioner.
You have another 90 seconds.
I would very much like to talk about the proposal and the assignment that you gave me to talk about other places, and so I'm available to do that. All I want to say is that we have made, this group has made such a good faith effort. They have never been able to meet with the other side. The biggest disservice here is to you folks that are neighbors. I am sure that you have some legitimate grievances, but I want to remind you, if you stand up in a public place in front of government, you better have your facts. And if you have garbage that is sitting about, you got to have a picture. And if you have a physical threat to yourself, then you got to have a sheriff's report, right? That is good government, relying upon facts, relying upon evidence. Otherwise, you have slander. This is a public body, and that's absolutely inappropriate. I've not seen that around the state. I certainly haven't seen it at the General Assembly. I want to say that my leadership in my association has advised this Forsyth group to go ahead with their peer oversight program. It's a volunteer program. Government doesn't need an okay for that, and government is too big already. So we're going to go ahead as good citizens to meet with the other side. We look forward to those meetings in good faith. I have done this all over the state. It has been done all over the nation, and I am just truly sorry that it wasn't managed here. Thank you.
Is there anyone else remaining on that side that would like an opportunity to speak? Guys, if you're going to have a conversation, you need to take it out in the hallway, please.
Hello, my name is Richard Monroe. I'm a resident of Hall County and a member of the Short-Term Rental Owners Association. And as you've heard already, you probably already know, Hall County a few weeks ago voted to allow short-term rentals in all residential properties. It's a very straightforward ordinance that has a 3 strikes rule in terms of weeding out the bad actors that are not addressing some of the noise concerns and the complaints from the neighbors. It's very crystal clear in terms of, those 3 things, that 3 strikes happen, you get a fine, and then after that you get banned from being able to do short-term rentals. From my perspective, that's a potential solution that might make sense because you're basically going to be able to monitor what happens. There's a registration process so that everybody clearly understands who that property owner is, their contact information if something were to happen, as well if there's a property manager. So I would strongly recommend, they've done a very good job of putting their guidelines and their ordinances on their website with a pamphlet that clearly explains everything. I would recommend that you guys take a close look at that and see if it's some things that you might want to implement. Thank you.
We have about a minute and 10 remaining if anyone else would like to come forward. Sure. Well, you already had someone speak twice too, but sure.
Oh, okay, thank you. Since we got a minute and a half.
You got a minute and 10.
A minute and 10 seconds. Okay, I've already introduced myself. I just want to let you know that a group of us went and met. We went down to Monroe, met with Wilson Dubois, the attorney who won the case in Supreme Court of Georgia, which affirmed that short-term rentals are a constitutionally protected vested right. And I know there's a lot of lawsuits against the county right now. There's over 250 short-term rental owners in Forsyth County. I think the line might get really, really long to line up to sue the county. And, well, we're going to win. I just don't think it's a good use of taxpayer dollars to defend all those lawsuits. And short-term rental owners that are making, a decent income from their properties, they're not greedy, but it's America. It's free enterprise. So they are not just going to shrug their shoulders and say, oh, well, I guess we got to sell our vacation home. Can't afford it anymore. No, that's not what they're going to do. Please do not vote for this egregious government overreach. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioners, is there a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Please vote. This public hearing is now closed. Commissioners, I'm not sure how much conversation you guys are looking to have on this tonight, if there's any unanswered questions or concerns.
Yeah, I know Commissioner Mills wants to offer a couple things, but I think you'll be, I would like to do it as well, but what I'm going to offer you may actually be palatable too. I just don't believe that the cup is the answer. Our staff says it inundates them, but I'll get into my things a little bit, but what I have to offer as a compromise, I think you may find palatable.
Well, let's have some discussion before anybody jumps into a
I'm not
motion.
gonna, that's why I'm letting Commissioner Mills do her, whatever she wanted to do.
I just had asked GIS for a map. I've shared it with y'all, but I've got it if y'all want to put it up. I knew that Chairman Simonson had been talking about offering a motion with, that was just for agricultural and ag-res properties for cups. And I wanted to see what that would look like if that went forward and where the ag and ag-res properties would be. And I like our chair, but I find it, it's protecting her own district. And it's taking all the short-term rentals out of her district and putting it all in mine. And putting it in District 1 and
Not want it
put it in
anywhere?
District 4.
Is that your
No,
point,
I
though?
don't. I think that we're not looking.
Let her finish, don't interrupt her.
I think that, I think you're bringing forth a motion that you haven't even looked at. I'm the one that went and got this map done late yesterday, and you were about to bring forth a motion that you hadn't even looked at.
I have looked at the motion.
Well, you didn't have a map. You had not made a map.
If you don't think I have discussed and looked at maps before, then
Well, you hadn't shared it with anybody.
Well,
You didn't have it brought forward for us to look
listen,
at.
the discussion that we'd had previously with respect to the nature.
Well, maybe you
of-
were keeping it a secret.
No, that's
Well,
ridiculous.
what-
The nature of the conversation that we had before with respect to ag and ag-res properties were that agriculturally zoned properties are, first of all, are not in residential neighborhoods typically, and you typically have some separation from other properties, and by the very nature of their size and typical location, have the type of separation that could make them more appropriate for a lodging service. We also have had discussions around wanting to have the availability for people to go into, have event center type places where they could have a barn or something along those lines, where they could have events or parties or weddings or those types of things. Those types of properties allow for that. I have plenty of green in my space, in my district as well. I just don't have it on some of these fingers, and I actually do have it on some of them. I think that that's a suitable compromise, because you are going to have that separation. You are going to typically have larger pieces of property. They're at least an acre under ag. They're 2 acres under ag res. So it's going to provide a better opportunity for some natural buffering. It is allowing for it to exist in this county. And like I said, if you scroll up and down that map, there's opportunity throughout this county if somebody wants to get into the short-term rental business, because that's what we're talking about. It is a business. If you're wanting to get into that business, there is opportunity in every single district on that map.
The people here are all about the lake. We know that, 90%, 95,
Well, then you should run for District 5,
99%. But I'm looking at the green that is in your area, and I don't believe any of it is in anything that touches the lake. It looks like it's across the
There's some.
street.
There is.
Looks like they're
Shady
across the
Grove?
street.
No. Does that matter, Todd? I mean, seriously, do you want to represent District 5?
I just wanted to know if this was by design. I don't know.
Why is that by design?
I just don't think anything has been thought through.
If you guys are saying that you don't want it in ag and ag res, we can shut the whole thing down. Sounds like that's what you're saying. What you're saying is you want me to have it in my district. You want us to have it on the lake, which you do not represent. So either you're saying that you're feeling you don't want the pressure of having it in your district.
But
So you're pushing it back on me.
why is this one shoe fits all consideration for the entire county? Then why isn't yours done a little bit different in your district than other districts, if that's what your concern is?
Because when we do things in the UDC and by ordinance, we typically do them countywide. And this is not a problem that is limited just to the lake. You wait and see. Commissioner Cooper, do you have concerns that you may have some over in Sawney Mountain or in those types of areas? I'm sure that everybody is going to want to be able to have a bigger hand in this.
Green all over this, because if you look at Highway 20 up to Wallace-Tatum, that is mostly District 1. All of that green, Hurt Bridge Road, Herdsville, all of that, McCoy Circle, Hendricks, all of that's mine. I do not have any concern about that at all because I am aware that that is not in areas that are designated specifically neighborhoods, residential. These are lots, a lot of them are custom homes, a lot of them are individual lots. It's not going to infringe upon a residential area. We have got a problem in this county where in the honoring of that which is residential, the honoring of that which is a neighborhood. It's not just the short-term rentals. There are other kinds of businesses that are trying to come into residential areas as well. We have got to protect our residential areas, the home of it. And STRs are definitely a business. There was some conversation in the past at some of the meetings. This is definitely a business. You're doing a business in a residential area, period.
Ken, are you aware of any new law that may exist where HUD will not consider a loan in a community that doesn't have at least 25% minimum rental? Have you heard about that yet? I would love for you to look into that.
I don't, and I'll tell you, I would seriously doubt that HUD is concerned about vacation rentals.
Just hang
And if we
on,
want to
just hang
talk about
on.
the
If we're
impact,
there's just a lot of more information coming forward is my point. And for us to jump this without finding out how that's going to affect people also, if you shut down, that doesn't mean you have to do short-term rental, ma'am. I wasn't going to that point. I know you jumped me real quick. But just rentals in general, something we need to learn about and find out about. But also, we've heard staff say, Mr. Brown say, how onerous this is going to be on his staff if you start bringing all these conditional use permits in. I think you should do it in the form of a permit instead of a conditional use permit, with however you want to do it. And it could be done the same way if that's what you're considering, Ag 1. But to come through the CUP process is so onerous, not only just to the landowner, but to PC, the stakeholders, staff, and then, of course, us. It just creates, our books get thicker and thicker. We become massive bureaucrats. And I just don't think the CUP process is right, because I will tell you, you may find some of these people have more than an acre of land on the lake that say, okay, I'll do the CUP process. First, they're going to come in and get their land rezoned to ag. Then they're going to come for a CUP. It's just making them jump through all those hoops is just so onerous to all of our staff. It's going to cost taxpayers a ton of money, not just these folks, but everybody, because our books just get thick for no reason.
nobody's
it's just because major
entitled.
bureaucrats.
Nobody's entitled to a rezoning as to ag on demand. It goes through the same
I understand,
process
but
as anyone
I'm
else.
just saying that this may create more than we're paying attention to, is my point.
And would it not have been nice?
Here is 12 pages, and the first 2 pages is 14 pages, actually. The first 2 pages, this is done by our council back when we did all these meetings earlier, and it just states all the legal reasons why we're allowed to put forth some ordinances that can govern short-term rentals. The last 12 pages is everything that we worked on that goes somewhat of a 3 strikes plan, or can be. And it lays out all the things that people can't do before they get those strikes. And now all the complaints that came up, they're covered in here.
Do you recall that every single person who spoke from the STR side spoke in opposition to these? And this is the same type of thing that they've brought forward, say they want to do themselves, and they spoke against it when we wanted to do it. So I don't think you're ever going to get to the point of
That where we are today, I'll bet they would support this. And I don't know if y'all have read it yet or not, but somebody needs to get a copy of this and read this. It's not that onerous. However, you step outside the line, you don't get to rent your property anymore. The only thing I don't like in is how much you're looking to charge at $250, and I think the charge should be $500 a bedroom. No, you can't speak. $500 a bedroom, so that the amount of money we start bringing in is astronomically different, and we can pay code enforcement out of those funds. But that's just where I am on this. I think the CUP is going to crush our staff. It's going to put so much more on PC. It's going to put so much more on us. We can do everything you're wanting to do, but it needs to be done through a permit process. That's all my point is.
We went down this road last year.
I'm just telling you, the CUP is not the answer. If you want to shut it down, just say shut it down. But don't do smoke and mirrors and by calling it a conditional use permit only on ag and A1 properties.
Do you not see the applicability of this in a place that has some natural separation and the ability to have those types of events?
I just think you do it through a permit process.
Well-
The cup is so onerous, it's a lot of extra for everybody.
The whole argument here is non sequitur. You're saying you guys don't want it because of all the ag that's out there, but you're telling me that you want it on all res. It makes no sense. Commissioner Brown, is there anything you'd like to add to this?
Didn't I see where Brookhaven prohibited in residential areas? Brookhaven, Georgia.
And if you want to do it, that's fine, but don't do it through a cup. It's so onerous. Do it through a permit. So those folks can come just get a permit. They don't have to go through a whole zoning process.
What happened to us gonna do a study that we asked for that like a year ago?
Or more. Mr. Brown asked for the study.
We hired
What
a
happened to
consultant
that?
to do the.
I mean, but
the
we
assessment
were
of the
supposed to
numbers.
get
We
that
had
like
that.
forever.
They did a presentation.
We never got it. I mean.
They did a presentation in here.
No, we were supposed to have something that showed us where all the,
Right.
I mean, like right now, we could be looking at this map and we could put on top of it and see where the short-term rentals are in our county. And we would know right now, looking at that. I mean, we were supposed to get that information forever ago.
But here's the philosophical argument, though, and Commissioner Cooper has expressed it, and I have expressed it in previous times. Are you okay with a slippery slope of allowing something that is currently prohibited in our code, because we do not allow lodging services, that is shorter than the allowable amount of rental time that we have now, that is truly a commercial venture in a residential area? And are you saying that that you don't see that has the potential for other people bringing other types of businesses forward and wanting to do the same thing? What's the next thing? Uber parking lots where people share driveways to park vehicles? Just because things are available to do doesn't mean that they necessarily need to be done in all places.
So if we
Wait
just,
till scooters get here, and wait till you see when we have to deal with that.
part of the discussion.
That's what government is for, unfortunately, is when people cannot come to a decision themselves. Sometimes we're put in a position of doing that. And this county went down that road when it put zoning in place. We know this is a land use issue.
Madam
We
Chair.
know this is a land use issue.
Madam Chair, if we go with the conditional use permit route, then we don't ever find out where they are. The permitting process makes them register, because unless they come up,
I've never seen a cup without an address.
but that's just gonna be one by one by one. But right now, they would all have to sign up right away. You know who they are instantly. They
Yeah,
have
he's
to-
saying
but
that
because
people are just
here's-
gonna
here's
keep
my
doing
point.
it.
Let's just say they start to operate.
Right. I think that's what
Let's
we
say
know.
they continue to operate under the wire, and our staff kids have a hard time finding them today. And they don't come get the conditional use permit because they're not allowed to, because they're not Ag 1 or A1. You won't know who they are. The permitting process forces them to register right away. You know who they are.
That's only if they come in to get permitted. Your argument doesn't hold
But
water.
it's not so onerous that they won't. You're not creating an underground environment.
There's already an underground environment. It's currently prohibited. It's currently not part of our code.
I just feel like the permitting process is not as onerous. You can get to where you want to be with it, it's the same,
So, I
without
think-
having to go through all of this extra stuff for us to have to work on.
In banning it in Brookhead, they said that it changed the essential character of the neighborhood, which I don't see how a permitting process protects the homeowners, and that's where I'm at.
But you can make it only be allowed in certain areas. You don't have to let it be blanket. You could do the same thing you're doing with the cup. You can make it in Ag or Ag 1 if that's how onerous you want to be. You don't have to, you don't have to have the cup to do that.
Well, we have
You
to
can do it
determine
with
what
the
districts.
I'd be okay with that.
We still
as
have
long
to
as it-
be.
You see what I'm saying? And you're not creating so much
does
weight
the
for
same
staff.
thing.
We still have to determine what districts it is and is not allowed in.
And that's fair.
We're still grappling with that.
If you want to do a cup, do it in yours. I don't think it's necessary in mine. And I don't know, Ken, how in the world can we break this up? Because this seems like
I don't.
the lake has another, it's what's created all this conversation.
Well, we're considering the
Dennis
cup
has a
this
few
evening,
and
so
they're
if you're
ag,
considering something
but to
else,
make
that starts a
guy
new
come through the
process.
whole process it just seems crazy. It just seems like so bureaucratic process. It just, I don't know.
We didn't design this with that sort of balkanization in mind. We did it as
Can we?
Well, I mean, we do craft unique zoning laws for unique areas. We typically call them overlays. So, I mean, we know how to do that, but that's not, my point is simply that's not the way this has been designed. This has been a countywide UDC change.
So let me, just for example, based on what you said, let's just say we vote down the cup completely, it doesn't make sense, it's too onerous. Can we look at doing an overlay for each district, and then those districts want to do the permit can decide what it applies to, what it doesn't, where they can get it, where they can't?
Yes.
These 12 pages, we did a lot of work, and I ask any commissioners who haven't read it, please take a moment to read it. You will find
Read it a million times.
that it was both sides that worked this out, and I doubt either side's going to, I mean, they may go against it, but it's a heck of a compromise, and it will give that 3 strikes. They do have to register, you know who they are. And if you don't want it in your district, then say you don't want it in your district, or apply it to your ag, and A1's the only way you can get it. Apply it to your district the way you want. For me, if they just sign this up, I think we know who they are, and we'll instantly get rid of the bad actors. And in my district, I'm perfectly fine with that.
And I think the one thing that may be something that we definitely, that we could pull from the work that had been done previously was to look at those as performance standards for the conditional use
Well,
permit.
but most of
And
those.
we've got some of that captured in
Right.
here.
So owners of conditional use permit, do it as a permit only.
Tom, do you think it would be easier to enforce as a permit rather than a cup?
Same.
Let me back off the question just a little and say it would be easier to process, definitely.
Well, because it's faster.
Sure.
And then what about the overlays then?
Yeah, I mean, that's.
Then you have overlays also.
Could we do it as
You have to
with
do an overlay
overlays?
to do a permit?
No, that's two different things. The question I was trying to answer was, do we know how to structure specific land use requirements for very specific geographic areas? And I was simply saying, yes, we typically call that an overlay.
But you don't have to do an
No,
overlay.
not
You
for
could
a-
just do a permit process.
Right. But
I mean,
permitting's
sure.
not zoning. That's my only, but permitting's not zoning.
It's not, but if you wanted to restrict it just Ag 1 and A1, you're allowed to do that, correct? You can only get the permit in
Well,
those
yeah.
areas.
Prohibit it and not make it be a cup.
Right, but there is I would not be in favor of just a standalone permitting process. It needs to be a permit with associated regulation. It still needs to be
No,
a
of
manifestation of the police power.
This, which is what all the regulations, 12 pages.
That's, yes.
I'm
that
talking
would
about
be
this
that.
12-page document, the 2 in the front to support it by Georgia law.
Well, I for one, I went through that enormously time-consuming, grueling process on that product there to where we, thought we had it at the finish line, only to have objection from the same parties that are objecting to any type of regulation today.
Why don't you ask them if they would object to this today? They know what it is.
You know
They've
what?
read it.
What they say today may not be what they say at the end of the
Well,
process. that
ask
we,
them. Ask them
like
to
I
help
said,
put their
we've been.
hands up.
Todd, that's fine. Well, you're still head nod yes or no. You're still wanting to be regulated by yourselves.
Would you
Not-
be
no,
okay
just
to be
head
regulated by the
nods.
12-page thing that we did? Put your hands up if you're willing to be regulated by this 12-page document permit.
This is. You know what? I think Todd. They don't have the benefit of looking at it. It could say anything.
They helped build it. At least half of them did.
Well, okay. Look, we've batted this around.
Why don't
We've
we
batted.
postpone this and let them read it?
We've batted this around for a very long time, so I would like to offer a motion. I would like to make a motion that we approve the conditional use permit process for agricultural and agricultural zoned properties only, and expressly state that it is prohibited from residentially zoned categories.
That's countywide, Madam Chair.
That's what is before us today.
A second.
Thank you. There's a motion and a second.
And this is,
Do you want more discussion?
this is the cup process.
This is the cup process.
We don't have to do cup process to
Well, I think
regulate.
that we need to look at what the we make sure that we're satisfied with the performance standards in here. We'd already publicly stated that this would go into effect starting January of next year. So people have time to get their collective
I do
business
have a
affairs in
que-
order.
I would love to.
I just want to
this
clarify that
fail, and
one
I'd like
statement, and-
to go to at least 2 weeks, give them time to read it. and see if this permit process works.
Todd, so,
Motion to second.
I'm sorry, Counselor has something I
Yeah,
think to
just
offer.
the chair is correct. I just wanted to make sure the first cup cannot be approved until January 1st, 2020. The actual process may start before then. That's my only clarification.
I
Thank you.
have a question for Counselor. I know in the zoning, you've answered the question many times that if it goes to a court, a judge has the ability to, in a zoning, to throw it out or to make different determinations on something like this.
Mm-hmm.
What is the risk that a judge might do?
Well, given what I've heard, I think there are two likely scenarios that will play out. There will either be a facial challenge, which I'm not as concerned about that at all. What I'm likely most to see is the as-applied challenge. So the facial challenge would say that the amendment is void on its face for some basis of unconstitutional this or that. The facial challenge, though, is the more interesting one because that's where it's going to get into the specifics of who's doing what, how long, and under what circumstances they've done this. That would be the more likely challenge that I would see come. So
And
we'll
that's
just have
on
to
the,
see.
that would typically occur if somebody was not granted their cup, not for the regulation itself.
No. I mean, we could get litigation from denial of the cup as well. No,
Sure.
what I think the challenge that will be made legally against the county is when we attempt to shut someone down and we use this ordinance and they say, no, I've been doing it before and I'm grandfathered and you can't stop me.
But
That's where the challenge is.
The argument of grandfathering when it was never permitted in our code, though, would fall pretty flat, I would think.
Not suggesting it would be successful. I'm suggesting it will be attempted.
Right.
Look what we're getting ready to open ourselves up
All right,
for.
well,
Yeah, but I mean, my fear is, and my fear is that we will do, that we will create something thinking we're doing the right thing and wind up, ultimately, it'll be a worse thing.
well,
No, you
No,
can't.
I'm sorry,
You
the
can't.
public
You
hearing
can't.
is closed.
You can't. All right, so this 12-page document can do
That's
the
fine.
same thing
I'm
the
going to call the
cup does
question.
without having to have the cup.
There's an active motion. I call the question. Please vote. And that motion does pass with a vote of 3-2.
Could have done the same thing with the permit process and not.
Ma'am, you cannot, we can't have outbursts in the room. Ma'am, you're out of order. Thank you. Counselor, is there a need for executive session this evening?
There is, actually.
Okay.
A short one, but we do have some business for the county.
Will we have business afterwards here
We
in
will
this
not.
room? Thank you. Is there a motion to close, is there a motion to recess the regular meeting, public hearings, and enter to executive session for the discussion of
moved.
litigation, land acquisition, and/or personnel?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Please vote. We are recessed at 7:46. Is there a motion to reconvene the regular meeting and public
moved.
hearings?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Please vote.
Motion adjourn.
Second.
Wait, everybody hasn't voted? There we go. That
motion
motion
adjourned.
passes 5-0. We are reconvened at 7:59. Is there a motion
So moved.
to adjourn? We have a motion and a second. Please vote. And we are adjourned at 8 p.m.
This is TV Forsyth, your county connection.